The collision between scientific and sociological thinking really sparks a lot of new ideas. While chatting, I also realized a few things I'd overlooked. You're right. If we just build a small boat, air and I would be enough to head out to sea. But that's way too dangerous. A single strong wave would flip it right over. I sighed softly. If we want to be safe, we have to build a big ship. But without computer assistance, the two of us definitely couldn't pilot it. It's a real dilemma. That's a crucial issue I hadn't thought deeply about until now. Zhong Qingshu's reminder made my head throb. The mini-destroyer I unlocked earlier. Even though I haven't finished studying the blueprint and can't see the detailed specs yet, just looking at the illustration and comparing it to real-life destroyers is enough to guess its true materials and power. That ship is over 100 meters long, with a draft of more than 5 meters and a cruising speed of about 18 knots. Its top speed could even hit 28 knots or more. As for its weapons, it goes without saying. Absolutely terrifying. To perfectly replicate a steel monster like that, the materials and manufacturing techniques are already a massive hurdle. The operating crew alone would need over 200 people, and every single one would have to be strictly trained. From the very beginning, I never dreamed of building the original version. When I first got the blueprint, my direction was already crystal clear. Scale it down to 1/3. I just need to keep the length around 30 to 40 meters, with a draft of over 1.5 meters. That ensures stability while saving materials and energy. I told her, if we really want to build a ship, air and I definitely can't handle it alone. Even if you know how to pilot it, there are only 2 ways. Zhong Qingshu was always rational. She immediately pointed out the situation. First, you have to find a way to get a computer, then program an automated support system. That's the only way to reduce the manpower needed. Second, you have to bring a lot of people. At the very least, you'd need Qin Shun and a few capable hands. And if you do that, you absolutely must have solid ship piloting skills. Because relying solely on human strength for a large ship is incredibly difficult. Before the apocalypse, many large ships had autopilot systems. With computer assistance, the required manpower drops significantly. If you follow my approach, avoiding trade and combat, then honestly, just a few people would be enough to operate it. A computer, an autopilot system, I muttered to myself. From climbing the tech tree to building a ship to cross the sea, everything requires a computer. A computer in this post-apocalyptic world is more precious than gold. I waved my hand, reassuring myself. Whatever, no need to rush right now. I'll figure it out after the ship is built. Besides, who knows what the next disaster will be? The Xinliangfang ruins might have a computer, but for now, I just shrugged and pushed the matter aside. Out of all the ruins in the wasteland, only the Black Mist ruins in the basin allow you to return to a parallel world similar to Earth. The fewer people who know, the lower the risk of exposure. Until I'm strong enough, I have to suppress my curiosity. After all, this is a place where everyone has their own secrets. I have mine. Zhong Qingshu has hers. Even the people working hard in the fields down there might have had their own fortuitous encounters that they keep to themselves. As evening fell, the time to harvest the second crop arrived. The first crop of wheat, after setting aside seeds and a portion for trading, had its unthreshed remainder piled up into a small hill right by the field. In the fields, every 4 or 5 minutes, the wheat visibly grew taller, especially the early sown rows. The harvester was already roaring, while the crowd trailing behind watched in curious amazement as the wheat grains flew out of the fan chamber. Even the smell of diesel, once considered unpleasant, now had people inhaling it eagerly, like the warm, comforting scent of the old civilization. Brother Su, it's time to harvest our second crop. The average yield per moo reached 1,890 caddies. It's an absolute victory. Qin Shun ran over, clutching a small notebook soaked in sweat. His sun-baked skin had darkened a few shades. He flipped open the notebook and began reporting on every single moo of land. It might sound dry, but to me, it was music to my ears, especially the parts that surpassed the 2,100 caddy mark. Even Zhong Qingshu couldn't help but exclaim. Knowing the theory is one thing, but doing it is another. Everyone has their own expertise. The older farmers among the refugees had far better techniques than me, a mere amateur. From seed selection and sowing to irrigation and fertilizing, every step was meticulous. That's why the yield was so high. For people like that, I didn't hold back. I bluntly declared that for every moo exceeding 2,000 caddies, I deduct 100 caddies from my own share as a reward. Hearing that, Chun Shun's eyes lit up, and he nodded repeatedly. The carrot and the stick. Just the thought of being personally rewarded by me. I knew exactly how hard they'd work in the coming days. I added, make sure to control how much everyone eats. Don't let them gorge themselves after starving for so long. It'll ruin their stomachs. Looking at the emaciated crowd, then at the flour mill already hooked up to the generator, I took a deep breath. At this stage, the welfare disaster is a massive success. For the next 2 days, we just need to take it steady, and we'll have enough food reserves to last for years. After giving a few more instructions, I waved my hand to signal the end of the report. But Chun Shin stood still, not turning away like he usually did. He stammered, wanting to say something but not daring to open his mouth. I paused slightly, but before I could ask, Zhong Qingshu stepped up to bail him out. Hey, Chun Shin, why are you acting so timid around our god Su? Everyone has seen all the work you've done these past few days. If you have something to say, just spit it out. A light-hearted joke, but it gave Chun Shin the courage he needed. He crumpled the hem of his shirt as if gathering all his resolve. His face covered in dark, grimy sweat, he looked up and stammered. Brother Su, the thing is, everyone asked me to ask you if you could stay a little later tonight. The folks want to show their appreciation. You've helped us so much these past few days, and everyone is incredibly grateful. Since yesterday, over 100 people have taken turns begging me to ask you. At this point, Chun Shun gritted his teeth, as if risking his life to pour out everything stuck in his throat. The moment he finished, he squeezed his eyes shut, waiting for my judgment. Poor guy? It was so awkward it was actually funny. I glanced over and saw Zhong Qingshu trying to hold back a laugh. I could only shake my head helplessly. Looking at Chun Shun, who was still clenching his fists with a face as stiff as if he were heading to the guillotine, I sighed and waved my hand. All right. From now on, just speak your mind. Don't act like we're parting forever. Being a leader who's overly deified can sometimes backfire. Unless it's a religious cult where a deity helps rally forces rapidly. But for a model like the Zhuhua shelter, if they put me on too high a pedestal and isolate me from the middle ranks, the moment something goes wrong, a single misstep could cause a massive backlash. There's no immediate solution for that right now. Once I bring my sister back and officially build a large-scale base, I'll figure out a strict restructuring plan. I shooed Chun Shin away to ease his nerves, while Zhong Qingshu went back to her patrol duties. Mu'er was still helping out in the fields, and who knows which corner Oreo ran off to patrol, leaving just me, sitting quietly on the edge of the field, staring up at the sky. I wonder how my sister is doing. Maybe she's also farming over in the tundra. Finding someone in the wasteland, across thousands of miles, is truly grueling. I focused my mind and opened the friends list. Su Chan's avatar was still blinking green, a sign of life. Sometimes, I hope the next disaster isn't a flood. But other times, I hope it is. Humans really are both selfish and selfless. Watching everyone assemble the flour mill at the village gate, I decisively stood up and went over to help. The mill's mechanism is quite simple. Between the two traditional grinding heads, I added a thicker baffle ring with corresponding grinding teeth. Any grains that don't meet the standard get held back, while the fine ones pass through and are ground further. As long as there's power, you pour in a bag of wheat, and it's done in less than a minute. It was everyone's first time using the machine, so they fumbled around for over half an hour without managing to assemble it. But as its creator, it only took me a few minutes to put it together perfectly. The generator was bought with pooled funds from the market this morning. After pouring in the diesel and pulling the starter, the electric current instantly sent the mill spinning with a whir. Clack, 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 clack. The crisp sound echoed across the wasteland. The 4 girls operating the machine jumped in surprise, while the crowd in the fields all looked up at once. It's grinding. Oh my God, the machine is running. Wow, we're having noodles tonight. I'm eating 3 bowls. No, 5 bowls. I'm gonna eat until I burst. The adults managed to keep some composure, but the kids were screaming at the top of their lungs, as if spring had just arrived. Swoosh. A bag of wheat mixed with chaff was poured into the hopper. The machine began to husk and crush it. A few seconds later, The first pure white specks of flour fell into the chute. Anyone who saw it couldn't hold back their tears. A young girl, encouraged by my reassuring gaze, scooped up a handful of white flour while crying. She sprinted toward the fields, shouting as she ran, "We have flour. Pure white flour." Her voice wasn't loud, but when a few people nearby saw it with their own eyes, they immediately joined in the shouting. "We have flour. We have wheat flour." One person, 5 people, 10 people, 50 people. The entire field echoed with their voices. The wind blew stronger, carrying the vitality of the people plowing the wasteland. Then, someone yelled out, "Long live Suemo! Long live the Juhua shelter! The wasteland belongs to humanity. The wasteland belongs to God Su. Follow God Su, and the wasteland becomes a plain. Work with God Su, and the wasteland turns into white rice. Long live humanity! We will conquer this land. We will conquer the entire continent. We will return to Earth. We just solved the food problem, and now they're dreaming of conquering the whole continent. We can barely survive the day, yet they already want to return to Earth. If there were any keyboard warriors here, they'd probably tear them to shreds. But right now, on this small patch of hopeful land, under the wings they believed I was spreading to protect them, no one laughed at them. No one mocked them for having pipe dreams. No one called them delusional. When the slogan, "We will return to Earth," rang out from the fields to the village, reaching every corner of the Juhua shelter, everyone seemed to unite as one. In this moment, right before a massive harvest, those words became an ideal etched deep into the hearts of people who had once lived like mere shadows. Even I, standing at the edge of the village and looking toward the horizon, was swept up in it. In the deepest part of my heart, a vow, both silent and burning, rose up. That's right. This wasteland is not humanity's home. That sky is not Earth's sky. 1 lifetime, 10 lifetimes. As long as humanity isn't extinct, our goal will undoubtedly be returning to Earth. Everyone knows it very well. After a burst of frenzy, the only thing that follows is prolonged exhaustion, especially for the refugees in the Juhua shelter. These people had been starving for a whole month. Their bodies were so weak that just standing for a bit made them dizzy. Yet just now, they screamed slogans for 10 straight minutes. Even though most of them had slumped to the ground, panting like plow oxen, and their bodies were truly exhausted, their spirits, I have to say, were soaring. From the elderly to the youth, even the newcomers, at this moment, everyone's heart was filled with a sense of belonging. If they didn't let that feeling out, they wouldn't be able to bear it. Humans, after all, are social creatures. Their spirit is incredibly bizarre. A single person has a combat power of 1, but gathered together, it becomes 5. And if their spirits are rallied, that power can multiply exponentially, something other creatures couldn't understand even in their wildest dreams. Double, triple. Some people can even erupt with the force of 10 or 20. Right now, under Mu Air's lead, the refugees collectively focused all their attention on the land before them. Their work efficiency visibly jumped a notch. Tired? It's fine. We'll rest after the harvest and sleep soundly. Hungry? Even less of an issue. Tonight, everyone here gets to eat until their bellies burst, ending the days of starving and restless nights. With nothing left to worry about, they poured out every last ounce of their strength, dedicating it all to this land, hoping for a bumper crop. I walked over and calmed the still emotional crowd. All right, the flour is about to spill everywhere. Stop crying. Let's push through and finish up tonight. Then we'll use this flour to cook everyone a massive meal. Yes, understood. The 4 girls secretly wiped their tears, then bent down and worked with renewed vigor. Watching that scene, my heart softened. The newly harvested wheat was still damp, so the flour yield was low and the wastage was high. Both the taste and quality were subpar. Only when it's thoroughly dried does it make good flour. Luckily, the sun in this wasteland is terrifyingly harsh. After just 1 day of drying, the first batch and nearly half of the second batch were pretty dry. Putting it into the mill right now is a bit of a waste, but with such a massive quantity, the loss is negligible. If it stays sunny for another half day tomorrow, both batches will be completely dry. The flour milled will be plentiful and fragrant, just in time to prepare for the next planting season. Back on Earth, thanks to pioneers like academician Yuan Longping, who pitched tents in the fields and researched day after day, humanity gained all sorts of drought-resistant, high-yield crop varieties. They helped the world overcome famine. That achievement was truly epic. And now, looking at the faces of the refugees, I understand even more clearly just how crucial solving the food problem is. Thank goodness I accidentally triggered a welfare disaster this time. Otherwise, once the flood passes, the number of survivors probably wouldn't even reach 10 million. I brushed the dust off my combat suit and did a final check to see if the machines had any issues. Then, I slowly walked toward the end of the field, beginning my final patrol before the sun set. A busy day flew by in a flash. From morning till night, my hands never stopped. The sun is about to dip behind the mountains. Time to clock out. At the edge of the newly zoned 200 field, a few starving mutated creatures had appeared. They wanted to take advantage of the falling darkness to launch a sneak attack. I pulled my rifle from my inventory and switched it to single-fire mode. With just a few bullets, I left behind some tasty additions for everyone's dinner. The gunshots rang out, but they didn't distract anyone in the fields. On the contrary, in the creeping darkness, that sound made them feel even more at ease. These mutated monsters have been really stingy lately. 3 of them in a row, and not a single one dropped a chest. 2 ugly hyenas showed up so often I got sick of counting them, plus a young snow leopard. Yet none of them dropped any loot. This makes one thing very clear. As time goes on, humanity can no longer rely on treasure chests to survive. Only by building homes with our own hands and restoring technology can we find the right path. Thanks to the lessons learned from their predecessors, combined with my blatant disdain and sheer strength. The monsters still lurking in the shadows instantly sensed that this place was forbidden ground. None dared to make a move. They could only tuck their tails and run. Down in the fields, right on schedule, the second batch of wheat was completely harvested by the power of the machine and sent to the warehouse to dry. By now, most people were dead on their feet. Except for the 2 tractors and the flour mill still running at the village gate. Everyone else had gone back to rest and prepare for tomorrow. Even so, a few hard-working elders quietly stayed behind in the fields, taking the time to spread the pre-prepared fertilizer to enrich the plots they were in charge of. Normally, land farmed this aggressively would be ruined after just one season. But what makes the welfare disaster so overpowered is that, whether the land is a desert or so barren that not even grass can grow, as long as there's enough water during the plant's growth phase, you'll still get a harvest. The yield varies by location, of course, but with the current high-yield, premium seeds, the absolute minimum is over 1,400 caddies, about 700 kilograms. That's more than enough for wild areas, even those harsher than the Hope Plains, to farm on a massive scale. Not to mention, with the buff from the welfare disaster, the soil absorbs fertilizer at a terrifying rate. As long as there's enough fertilizer, the land can regain its fertility in a short time, guaranteeing another bumper crop next season. Wait, where's Muir? He was just working, and now he's completely vanished? After encouraging the few people still toiling in the fields, I took a stroll around. Oreo ran over, rubbing against my legs and begging for food. I thought about Muir. He'd been working all day too, yet now he was nowhere to be seen. Usually, after a day's work, he'd scarf down 7 or 8 bowls of oily noodles in one go before he was satisfied. But today, total silence. Oh no, don't tell me Muir followed the villagers back to feast and drink? Just picturing him throwing his arms around the refugee's shoulders gave me an instant headache. Oreo seemed to understand immediately. She barked twice, then nodded to signal. Muir's scent was indeed in the village. 0 vigilance. He's way too relaxed. This won't do. I definitely have to teach him a proper lesson this time. Once the people spreading fertilizer had left the fields, I strode toward the village. The people in the Juhua shelter are familiar faces, but if he wandered into another shelter, Muir barging in would be no different from serving himself up as prey. In the mood to catch him red-handed, the moment I reached the village gate, I tightened my expression, dropped my smile, and returned to my usual aloof demeanor. But it's weird. Where did all the guards go? Normally, there's always someone on duty. They get a little food, and all discipline goes out the window? Unacceptable. Later on, I'll have to find a professional drill instructor to train them properly. I shook my head and stepped through the village gate. Walking a few more meters down the small path leading inside, My sharp hearing picked up faint breathing and the sound of people gathering. It was very quiet, as if they were trying to hide it, but nothing escapes my ears. The narrow path finally came to an end. I turned left, and the sight before me made me freeze in my tracks. Right in the middle of the large square used for village meetings, the crowd that supposedly went to rest earlier was all there, not a single person missing. They were lined up in a massive semicircle. Under the moonlight, their faces were still smeared with mud, but their eyes were shining brightly, full of anticipation. Mu'er, the wanted fugitive, was standing right in the front row. His bare face looked both sheepish and eager. Oreo, on the other hand, grinned widely and ran straight over to lie down at Zhong Qingshu's feet, leaving the stage entirely to me. Standing before the entire village was the shelter's management team, led by Chen Shun. They had all washed their faces clean, changed into fresh clothes, and stood neatly in front of me. Seeing me pause, Chen Shun bowed first. Immediately after, the entire village bowed a full 90 degrees, their movements perfectly synchronized. It was obvious they had practiced this for a long time. As he bowed, the dark red tray in Chen Shun's hands lowered just enough for me to clearly see what was on it. A bowl as pure white as jade. Inside was a rippling red and green broth, giving off a mouth-watering sour and spicy aroma. As Chen Shun's hands trembled slightly, the broth rippled, revealing the plump, snow-white dumplings underneath. Brother Su, today is our Huaxia New Year's Eve. Everyone pooled their resources, but we couldn't buy anything fancy for you. This bowl of dumplings is our token of appreciation. Please don't refuse it. I looked at the hundreds of sincere faces, then gazed up at the sky, where the moon hung high. A surreal feeling of being detached from time suddenly welled up inside me. Today, is it really New Year's Eve already? The sky still holds the same moon. The earth is still that familiar yellow hue. In this world, this is the first Lunar New Year for the Huaxia people. And I was so busy I lost track of time, completely unaware that the holiday had arrived. Dumplings. New Year's Eve. Is it really the spring festival? I looked one by one at the faces of the refugees bowing before me. Within every line of exhaustion was a joy they couldn't hide. I took a few steps forward, slowly. That's right. Today is New Year's Eve. And it perfectly coincides with everyone's first bumper harvest since arriving in the wasteland. Eat well, sleep soundly, and put aside a year of hardship. After the new year, this place will mark the first year of hope. I used the system to check the bowl of soup. Nothing unusual. Then, I gently took the bowl of dumplings from Chen Shin's hands. Cheers instantly erupted like a roaring waterfall. The large, hand-fired bowl had pale blue patterns on the rim, an item that could only be opened from a treasure chest, and definitely not cheap. The reddish-brown broth was clear, with chili oil floating on a layer of dark vinegar. No special seasonings. No energy water. No energy cabbage. Just a simple, ordinary bowl of dumplings that used to be in every home during the civilized era. And yet, my eyes stung. I picked up the chopsticks and, under everyone's expectant gaze, picked up a dumpling. A large, round dumpling, shaped a bit weirder than the rest. I put it in my mouth. It's delicious. Wild vegetable filling, with a little bit of minced beef inside. Combined with the sour and spicy broth, the taste was extraordinary. Before everyone could cheer, Mu'er sprang up like a coiled spring. The first one Master ate was the dumpling Mu'er wrapped. Master likes it. Isn't Mu'er amazing? He twisted and wiggled his big, round body, as if doing a belly dance. That adorably ridiculous display instantly shattered the solemn atmosphere. The whole village burst into laughter like crashing waves. All right. It's the new year. No need to be so formal. Tonight, all the consumed supplies. Put it all on my tab. Watching Mu'er dance around like he was about to take flight, my heart fluttered along with him. I swept my gaze over the entire village, then loudly declared one more thing. A roar of woe erupted like firecrackers, blowing away all restraint. From 40 or 50-year-old men to teenagers, everyone copied Mu'er and danced wildly. Right after, the female cooks who had prepared beforehand started bringing out bowls of piping hot dumplings from the kitchen. The wasteland's New Year's Eve had officially begun. Eating alone is tasteless. It takes 10 people, 100 people eating together for the new year to truly feel like the new year. For holidays like this, the more people, the more complete it feels. Today, on this special New Year's Eve, there was no perfectly timed, scripted New Year's gala. No scanning QR codes for red envelopes. No collecting digital cards online. No cliché, polite greetings. No, "Hey bro, help me click this link," and no copy-pasted New Year text messages. Outside the village was pitch-black darkness. But wherever people gather, there is the New Year. The New Year means harvest. The New Year means celebration. The New Year means setting aside exhaustion, eating a full meal, and sleeping like a log. Tomorrow, we continue to live. Even if it's hard, we are fulfilled and have a purpose. From a distance, I heard someone belting out a song. Let us live in this mortal world, wild and free. Galloping on horseback, enjoying the world's splendor. Pour the wine, sing out the joy in our hearts. Burn bright, seize our radiant youth. I don't know who dragged out a rechargeable speaker. The lively music blared, making the New Year atmosphere even thicker. The celebration grew more and more frantic. A cassette tape with only 8 songs played on an endless loop. Laughter, chatter, and singing echoed across the wasteland. As for me, the one who made all these miracles possible, in the midst of that bustling night, I chose to sit quietly on the highest roof of the shelter. It's been a long time since I felt this relaxed. I held a bottle of clear liquor that someone had scavenged during a supply run, taking a casual sip, eating a few pieces of fried snacks, and looking up at the wasteland's night sky. I knew very well that only when I wasn't there could everyone truly let loose and have fun. No timidity, no fear. Just eating, drinking, laughing, and living. Sister, I wonder how things are on your end right now. I lay back on the roof, staring up at the endless night sky. Beside me, Oreo was curled up like a warm ball of fluff. In this moment, no one was lonelier than me. But also, no one was as satisfied as me. The most terrifying thing for a human being isn't hunger, isn't cold. It's not knowing what you're going to do tomorrow. Having no direction, no hope. Just existing, not living. But me? In the middle of this wasteland, I've found the path I need to walk. And more importantly, I know what I have to do to succeed. All I want is a little peace. Just a little tranquility. If this world can't even provide something that simple, then I, Sumo, will use my own 2 hands to protect everything I desire. The liquor was mild, but it made me feel intoxicated. The alcohol wasn't strong, but facing a future full of thorns, an unprecedented fighting spirit surged within me. 10,000 miles. Whatever. I'm determined to walk this path. A round sky and square earth? A fog covering the entire world? So what? Sooner or later, I'm going to tear this sky apart. After letting the future take shape in my mind, I looked down at the lively crowd below. From the roof, I bent my knees slightly and leaped down. Without disturbing anyone, I carried the fast-asleep Mu'er on my back. 1 adult, 2 little ones, beginning our journey back. It's the new year, after all. We have to go home for the holidays. To everyone else, the Juwa shelter is home. But to me, my true home is the underground shelter deep beneath the earth. I rolled down the car window, and a cool breeze rushed in. The rapid growth of the plants had caused a massive spike in oxygen levels. The slightly humid air carried a uniquely refreshing feeling. I took a deep breath, watching the wasteland that was changing day by day. The closer I got to the shelter, the more excited my heart became. Finally, the underground shelter was right in front of me. Looking at the place that helped me earn my first pot of gold, I stopped the car. I poured the last bit of clear liquor right in front of the deep-sea shelter's gate. Brother Magu, it's the new year. Rest in peace. Earth, sooner or later, will return. The blades of grass swayed gently, as if replying. I bowed deeply, put away the empty bottle, glanced around the overgrown land, then got back in the car and hit the gas, speeding off. The 2 places weren't far apart. With the Earth Tiger's power, I arrived at the shelter's gate in less than 3 minutes. Only 1 day had passed, but the valley had completely transformed. The once barren Gobi Desert was now lush and green. The mountains surrounding the shelter were also covered in trees. Out of the 10 primal energy trees I left behind, 8 had fully grown, far exceeding my expectations. Each tree, after being watered with energy water, was as tall as a utility pole, about 8 to 9 meters high. They stood tall in front of the shelter's gate, swaying gently in the night breeze, giving off a natural fragrance. After confirming there was no danger around, I opened the shelter gate and drove inside. Dehua and Xiaohua, my two little ones, rushed over the moment they saw me return. A profound sense of coming home washed over me. This is my real home. Good boys. You're hungry, aren't you? Let me cook something for you guys. By now, Dehua's wingspan was nearly a meter wide, and Xiaohua had grown to 70 centimeters. The two intelligent beasts were no different from little kids, constantly rubbing against me to curry favor. I had to coax them for a while before they obediently stood by my side like two little shadows. Mu'er was still dead to the world. He had been asleep since getting in the car and only now sluggishly opened his eyes. He rolled off the passenger seat, flopped onto the ground, and went right back to sleep, completely oblivious to everything. Seeing that, Oreo laughed so hard she made snorting sounds, then barked happily as if teasing him. I took out 3 bags of freshly milled flour from the car, combined it with the remaining food in the storage, and whipped up a massive midnight feast. After we all finished eating, I locked the shelter doors, did a final system check, and everyone headed to bed. 1 adult, 2 little ones. Both human and beast were dead tired after giving it their all for 2 days. Tonight, there's nothing left to worry about. A deep, sound sleep is the best thing in the world. Outside, the world is still partying, still celebrating the new year. But inside this tiny underground shelter, I felt a strange sense of peace. I slept straight through until past 8 in the morning. Waking up to the morning sunlight and a breath of fresh air, all of yesterday's exhaustion vanished completely. On the bed on the 3rd floor of the shelter, I slowly opened my eyes. It's a big holiday, and even the system knows how to join the fun. Huh? With how exhausted I was yesterday, I should have slept longer. But the continuous ding-ding sounds from the system in my head made it impossible to go back to sleep. Before, the system only gave out a measly 100 or 200 points a day, while my expenses are now in the thousands every time. Saving up like that, who knows when I'd ever have enough. But on the morning of the first day of the new year, the system was handing out gifts. Right after the daily reset time passed, the sound of firecrackers popped in my head, signaling the new year. I shot up, shook myself awake, and chugged a mouthful of energy water. With a single thought, the system interface popped up. A brand new statistics panel appeared before my eyes. Oh wow, it's usually pale blue, but today it actually knows it's the new year and turned bright red. This system really is a domestic Huaxia product. It even knows how to give out red envelopes for the new year. The bright red interface instantly put me in a festive mood. Out of habit, I scrolled down to check the total haul. Just one glance, and I burst out laughing. I get a free draw. The system giving out gifts like this for the new year is just overpowered. This is awesome. Doomsday Calendar, February 1st. You have successfully crafted 3 automated mechanical devices, helping the team operate smoothly during the disaster. Survival points plus 100. You have obtained a plant with legendary tier potential. Please take good care of it. Survival points plus 200. Energy water has been heavily enhanced, with attributes vastly increased. Survival points plus 500. Your team has achieved a bumper harvest, resulting in abundant supplies. Survival points plus 1,000. You have a preliminary plan for the future, taking firmer steps in the wasteland. Survival points plus 500. You received a small surprise despite not preparing anything. Survival points plus 100. Personal charisma milestone. Your style and aura have won the loyalty of hundreds of people. Survival points plus 500. New Year's Eve milestone. Experience the first New Year's Eve in the Doomsday Wasteland. Reward. 1 creation system draw. Great harvest milestone. Enough food to feed the entire shelter for 5 years. Survival points plus 500. Time killer milestone. Items in the shelter have a 1000x acceleration effect. Survival points plus 500. Team milestone. Led over 100 people to complete a planned task. Survival points plus 500. Leadership aura milestone. Beginner calm demeanor, fitting the image of a wasteland leader. Charisma plus 5. Living environment evaluation. Survival points plus 401. Final summary. Survival points plus 4,801. Bonus reward. 1 creation system draw. Total remaining points. 19,086. I'm seriously lacking survival points right now. Getting nearly 5,000 points like this was something I couldn't even dream of before. But now, just crafting a few items will wipe it all out. It's a drop in the bucket. I looked at the pile of milestones that helped me rake in nearly 5,000 points, then remembered that future upgrades would cost tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of points. My head ached a bit. But, as long as I pull something good from the draw, its value could exceed 10,000, 100,000, or even 1,000,000 survival points. Until I accomplish major feats, the system will only drip-feed me points like this, which clearly isn't enough. But a system draw? That's enough to get me fired up. Last time, I drew the Dongfeng 17. Not only did it obliterate that false god, the heavenly dog, it also changed my life, turned the entire tide for humanity, and indirectly triggered the welfare disaster that helped the shelter stockpile enough food for years. Thinking about that terrifying game changer, I immediately opened the creation panel. In the top right corner, the number 1 draw appeared. My heart pounded with every beat. I, Sumo, have lived an upright and honest life. I've never done anything bad. It'd be way too weird if I didn't pull something top tier, right? Having drawn once before, I knew exactly how massive the gap between the best and worst prizes was. This time, without needing to psych myself up, I opened the interface right away. Swoosh. Tens of millions of cards began to spin. Each card appeared and flashed by like a shooting star. In the blink of an eye, I even saw the blueprint for the mini destroyer I had stored in my inventory. Then the familiar Dongfeng 17, the Dongfeng 41, nuclear submarines, aircraft carriers, even fighter jets with speeds over 1,000 kilometers per hour. My face flushed hot with excitement. Forget it, my eyes can't keep up. I'll just go by feel. I took a deep breath and tried again, staring intently at the dizzying stream of spinning cards. My heart raced so fast I felt lightheaded. Right at the moment my head spun slightly, an ordinary yet strangely eye-catching card suddenly entered my line of sight. That's the one. I swung my hand and instantly grabbed it with my mind. The selected card vanished from the screen with a thunderous boom. The draw interface dissolved completely, like a shooting star streaking across the night sky. In the system inventory, a new card had appeared. It had a classic style, with intricate patterns on the back, giving off a strangely majestic aura. This time, I don't need anything too crazy. Just something usable at sea is enough. I took a deep breath and focused my mind. My mind gently touched the corner of the card, flipping it over just like I did last time. It revealed a silvery white object in the shape of a blueprint scroll. Faint blue sparks of electricity flickered across its surface. Huh, it's a blueprint? Not a finished product? I scratched my head, a bit surprised. Normally, the system only spits out finished items. It rarely drops blueprints. Yet this time, I actually got a schematic. How interesting. I didn't expect to get something like this from the draw. The mist surrounding the card dissipated. The information appeared right before my eyes. Tier rare. Description. In the 8G era, when materials science and transmission demands reached a turning point, the high-energy signal tower was born. Reinforced with an ultra-rigid structure and integrated with a high-energy gathering ring, this tower boasts extreme disaster resistance. Maximum coverage range, 3,000 kilometers, far surpassing 7G technology. Card resources, finished product plus blueprint. Blueprint specs, signal range, maximum 3,800 kilometers. Stable range, 1,400 kilometers. Power consumption, average 12.5 kilowatts. Maximum, 22.4 kilowatts. Minimum, 3.85 kilowatts. Latency, within 3,000 kilometers, 0.005 milliseconds. Plus 1 millisecond for every 100 kilometers beyond. Included accessories, 1 user manual, 1 maintenance guide. Restrictions, must build a system-standard substation. Must expand exploration range beyond 3,000 kilometers. Evaluation. It's the 8G era. Don't you want to surf the web? Oh wow. Not only did it give me the blueprint, but it also threw in the finished product. It's not a weapon, nor is it combat gear, but I wasn't disappointed in the slightest. On the contrary, I felt like I'd just picked up a priceless treasure. No matter how powerful the Dongfeng is, it can only be used once. It doesn't bring about a technological leap because our foundation isn't advanced enough to reverse engineer it. But this signal tower is different. If I can activate it and later decode the technology inside, humanity's telecommunications will skyrocket like a rocket. Things once considered sci-fi might actually become reality. Humanity hasn't even fully utilized 5G, and now I'm jumping straight to 8G. Technology is definitely going to be turned upside down again. I chuckled softly, looking at the faintly glowing card. A surge of excitement washed over me, but I quickly suppressed it. Having grand ambitions is good, but I have to wait for the right moment. To unleash its full potential, I need at least a large enough shelter or a scientific foundation that has reached a certain level. If I erect the tower right now, gather people at Juhua, and hook it up, there's no infrastructure, no power, no connections. It would just be a useless pole. The power consumption is massive. If I'm not careful, it'll become a burden. After finishing the draw, I saw it was still early, so I opened the diary I hadn't touched in a long time. In high spirits, I wrote everything down in one go. From the time ruins to the farming, I condensed all the major events into keywords and categorized them clearly. Once done, I opened the friends list and randomly picked the account of someone who had died in a previous trade. With more and more plans piling up, I probably need to create a dedicated account to manage them all. I renamed that account to Future Plans, then entered each task in chronological order. The Juhua shelter side is stable now. In 2 days, I just need to transport the fuel. I'll let Muir drive the Earth Tiger to speed things up. The black soil near the shelter is fertile. I can't let it go to waste. I have to take advantage of it to plant herbs and fruit trees. I need to quickly set up the smelting furnace to produce high-strength steel. After the flood disaster, the shelter can be upgraded to level 5. Then I can use the destroyer blueprint. The shelter needs to expand its living quarters and build a cold storage. I currently have 8 intact cores in hand, so I'm no longer restricted. As for the tech tree, I have to wait for the ruins to open. I'm confident I can get a computer. After writing over a dozen lines, I looked at the plan for the next 2 months and nodded, very satisfied. Closing the system panel, I told myself, the path of cultivation begins with the first step. Once I gather enough supplies, I'll pour all my efforts into the technology skill tree. By then, after the flood ends, the tech tree in the basin will explode with growth. And humanity's first super stronghold in the doomsday wasteland will be born. While washing my face and cooking, I received a video call from Chen Shun. Even though he was over 100 kilometers away at the Juhua shelter, he was still incredibly dedicated. Not only did he check in, but he also reported the entire harvest from yesterday to today, along with the plan for today and tomorrow. I replied, today, just stick to the plan and plant the 2 batches of wheat first. Once that's done, plant the vegetables and cotton. Oh, right. Have you assigned everyone the key points for planting vegetables, as well as how to sow and harvest the cotton? Hearing my question, Chun Shin nodded, signaling that everything had been perfectly arranged. 3 ordinary people combined are better than Zhuge Liang. And with over a dozen young college students clearly dividing the work, the 100-person Juhua shelter was currently managed with surprising orderliness. After giving Chen Shin a few more pointers and discussing the fuel resupply, I hung up. Right at that moment, the mouth-watering aroma of breakfast wafted from the kitchen. After eating greasy noodles for days, suddenly having simple stir-fried sour cabbage, a few freshly steamed white buns, and a thick bowl of plain congee felt like a massive upgrade. Other people would be moved to tears just eating a bun, while I was living like a true bourgeois. The plain congee was light, yet had a sweet aftertaste. Combined with the fragrance of the energy cabbage, it was enough to wash away all fatigue in an instant. Even Muir, who only cared about eating meat, couldn't stop praising it. After breakfast, I cleaned the pots, tidied up the kitchen, and loaded the diesel produced from yesterday to today onto the Earth Tiger. 1 man and 1 bear headed out to the shelter's main gate. Muir, make sure to come back early after delivering the fuel. We still have work waiting for you here. I patted his shoulder. Muir nodded obediently, then drove the Earth Tiger away with a roar. Standing in front of the underground shelter's gate, I suddenly felt like a gentle father, waving proudly. My bear is really starting to grow up. At this rate, it's only a matter of time before Muir becomes the first mate on a destroyer. Once we install an autopilot system, 1 man and 1 bear will be fully capable of piloting a massive ship across the sea, traveling tens of thousands of miles. And since we're family, I don't have to worry about betrayal or getting stabbed in the back in the middle of the night. All right, stop being jealous. Seeing Muir's position becoming increasingly important, Oreo, the shelter's veteran, whined in jealousy. Looking at her grumpy face, I waited until the Earth Tiger disappeared over the horizon before chuckling, scooping Oreo up and heading back inside. Since Muir wasn't back yet, farming the black soil had to be put on hold. After watering the plants in front of the gate with energy water as needed, I returned to my workbench. It was time to study the rare item I'd been keeping for a long time, the smelting furnace. After 2 trades in the secret realm, the materials to craft the smelting furnace were almost complete. I was only missing the rare earth element lutetium, symbol Lu. Everything else was well over the required amount. 2,000 survival points is no longer a big deal for me. If I keep hesitating, the shelter's development will be delayed, and a delay will trigger a whole chain of other problems. I might as well just craft the lutetium right now. Once I made up my mind, I acted immediately. I gathered all the materials on the table and opened the crafting panel. In an instant, 2,000 survival points were wiped clean. Tiny white specks of light began to appear in the air before me, condensing into a dark gray crystal. It dropped onto the table, and at the same time, the crafting panel shifted from insufficient materials to green. Confirm. Craft smelting furnace. After double-checking, I confirmed the crafting command. The system responded instantly. 240 disaster points were deducted, leaving my balance at 2,218 points. The crafting time was only 5 minutes, so I casually went up to the first floor to wait. The dark gray smelting furnace actually didn't take up much space. About 10 square meters was enough. Its power source was electricity, the most abundant resource in the shelter. As long as it was powered, it could raise the temperature to 2,000 or 3,000 degrees Celsius to operate. The power consumption was a bit insane, but compared to its functionality, it was completely worth it. 5 minutes flew by in a flash. When the system panel announced it was complete, I opened it and saw the smelting furnace was ready to be placed. I chose a corner of the garage and positioned it with my mind. The massive furnace dropped from the void, kicking up dirt as it slammed heavily onto the floor. A few seconds later, it fused tightly with the ground, as if it had grown out of the stone. Once placed, it couldn't be moved. Relocating it would cost another 500 disaster points, but I had no need for that right now. I skimmed through the user manual, closed the system panel, and began observing the monster in front of me. Unlike the furnaces in games like 7 Days to Die or Minecraft, even though this one had a few similarities, its core design was based on technological modules. Similar to the upgraded oil well, the furnace was divided into 3 parts. The feeding area, a large bin with a 2-meter diameter intake pipe. The bin utilized mysterious spatial storage technology, allowing it to hold up to 20 cubic meters. You just drop the materials into the bin, and the pipe automatically pulls them into the furnace core. The smelting core, it had 4 massive pipes, like ship horns, reaching up to vent hot gas. The inside was completely sealed, so I couldn't see its internal structure yet. The output area, like the oil well, it had 4 large pipes connected to 4 square iron vats on the ground. Each vat could hold 15 cubic meters. The rightmost vat even had a return pipe connected back to the feeding area, allowing materials that needed multiple smelting cycles to be automatically recycled. Not bad at all. Despite the mystical technology, the operating principle was very easy to understand. As I observed, I gently stroked the furnace's casing, made of an unknown material, and the attribute panel popped up. Smelting furnace. Tier, excellent. Description. Modular technology, possessing multiple special uses. Combining it with other modules will unlock effects far beyond expectations. Current modules. Smelting module. High reaction module. Storage module. Function, processing. Power consumption, 10 kilowatts per hour. Currently, the furnace only had 3 modules corresponding to its basic smelting function. I tried opening the upgrade tab, but the moment I saw that new modules cost tens of thousands of survival points, I instantly closed it. The processing function is enough for this stage. As for the other features, I'll slowly collect them later when needed. Who knows, maybe they'll drop from a chest. The moment it runs, the furnace guzzles 10 kilowatts of electricity per hour. I connected a cable from the furnace to the largest power terminal, which had been prepared since the shelter was built. Then I went up to the second floor, turned on the diesel generator, and hooked up the power to the furnace. Rumble. The smelting furnace started up for the first time. A hand-sized electronic screen lit up next to the feeding area, looking exactly like the oil well's control panel. It displayed a list of materials that could be processed. The most urgent thing right now is the steel for the destroyer's hull. If it's not made well, the ship will fall apart after a few feet. If I'm going to do it, I have to do it right. It needs to last at least 3 to 5 years without breaking down. The interface displayed a massive array of alloys in all sorts of colors, making my head spin just looking at them. After a few minutes of filtering, I scrolled straight to the steel section. Steel is generally divided into two main categories: structural steel and tool steel. If categorized by alloy elements, there's carbon steel and alloy steel. Each type is further divided into carbon structural, carbon tool, alloy structural, and alloy tool steel. Then it's graded by the amount of impurities like sulfur and phosphorus: ordinary steel, high-quality steel, premium steel, and special-grade steel. Back in the day, the Titanic sank because of crappy steel. The steel contained too many impurities like sulfur, and when submerged in freezing water, it became severely brittle. The moment it hit the ice, it tore right open. Because of that, when choosing steel for the destroyer, I followed the principle of going from highest to lowest quality. I completely ignored the weak steels and aimed straight for military-grade naval steel. This type of steel is incredibly complex. There are 9 major categories and over 140 evaluation criteria. From tensile strength and toughness to crack resistance and low-temperature stress states, everything must be strictly tested. For example, an aircraft carrier's flight deck steel must have a minimum yield strength of 900 MPa. The hull must reach 780 MPa. Even the smallest destroyer needs at least 400 MPa to operate safely. Currently, the best steel my furnace can produce only reaches 620 MPa. It's probably due to the base's temperature limits or a lack of support modules. I tried selecting a higher strength military steel, but when I saw the resource requirements, I shook my head and immediately skipped it. The reason was simple: the resource cost was astronomical. Even though the system had simplified it to only require basic materials, the numbers were still staggering. 1 unit of 620 MPa steel equals 1,380 iron plus 880 copper. Absolutely insane. With my current reserves, I can forget about this type. Actually, modern warships use high-quality steel not to forge thick armor, but to keep the hull light. For example, the Type 052 destroyer's hull is only 30 millimeters thick. Because in modern warfare, thick armor is useless when the enemy uses anti-ship missiles and nuclear submarines. But this is a post-apocalyptic world. Making a 30 millimeter hull is no different from suicide. Forget missiles or torpedoes, just an underwater alien poking it with a trident would be enough to pierce it. The steel has to be thick. Without modern weapons, I have to crush them with sheer thickness. If we're going to ram each other, we're going to do it right. The base has about 8,000 units of iron left. Even if we mine more, we'll only get around 30,000 units. The 40-meter destroyer design requires at least 2,000 units of steel. With this requirement, I have to choose a steel type with the most reasonable iron consumption rate. 580 MPa? Too expensive. 520 MPa? Still no good. After filtering them down, I finally found a 440 MPa military steel with a much more forgiving cost. 440 MPa steel. 1 unit requires 13 iron plus 1.5 copper. To get 2,000 units, I need 26,000 iron plus 3,000 copper. The inventory currently has 8,000 iron, so I need to mine another 18,000 iron. No problem. The plan to relocate to Mount Taisher and the mining operation can be done simultaneously. With excellent tier pickaxes and a massive storage inventory, over 100 people digging will be faster than machines. We can mine iron while hollowing out the mountain to create a shelter for 100 people to survive the next disaster. My thoughts flowed seamlessly, and the next plan rushed into my head like a flood. Taking the underground shelter as the center within a 300-kilometer radius, I had memorized the terrain thanks to the Shanghai picture scroll card in the Time Ruins. If the Talisman world accurately simulated the disaster, Then in just 10 minutes, the water around the shelter would rise to 10 meters. The basin will be even deeper. The plains will be flooded by at least 8 meters on the very first day. Even though the west is higher in elevation, against a great flood like this, it won't make a difference. To survive, there are only two options. One is to find a high mountain. Two is to build a ship. But if we sail, where do we drift to? Heaven knows, earth knows. Therefore, relocating the people of Zhuhua to Mount Taisher is the best plan. We can utilize their labor to mine iron ore for the ship, while simultaneously building a flood-resistant fortress capable of holding out for half a year. A perfect plan. Two birds with one stone. The furnace is running. It produces 1 unit of steel every 5 minutes. If it runs 12 hours a day, it'll take about 13 days, less than half a month, to get enough steel. After calculating that, I finally felt truly at ease. The feeling of time breathing down my neck was gone. From this disaster to the next, according to the old cycle, there should definitely be 30 to 45 days to prepare. That's enough time to gather materials, relocate the people, and even for humanity to organize a massive migration to escape the flood. Half a year later, when the water recedes, a new cycle of development will begin. By then, if the tundra shelter hasn't found a high enough mountain, I might have to lend a hand. Regardless, as long as I build a big enough ship, it definitely won't sink after just a few weeks. I always prepare for the worst-case scenario. So even if the tundra shelter doesn't have high mountains or favorable terrain to avoid the flood, in my eyes, it's no big deal. After all, this disaster is just a flood, not a tsunami. Even if the water level rises high, the destructive force won't be catastrophic. Even if the lower reaches are flooded by 30 to 40 meters, I still believe the tundra shelter can hold out. Seeing it was still early, and taking advantage of the time before Muir returned, I flipped the switch and started the furnace for its first run. The feeding bin was huge. I loaded in 100 units of iron and 100 units of copper, then selected the 440 MPa steel option on the control panel. A new design interface popped up. Not only did it display detailed data, but it also allowed me to customize the appearance of the steel plate. Oh ho, the game is actually putting in some effort this time. Finally, no more of that DIY drawing crap from before. The game that dragged us into this doomsday world has a very magical way of measuring things. 1 unit of different materials isn't consistent at all. 1 unit of iron and 1 unit of copper are completely different. 1 unit of branches and 1 unit of pine wood are also wildly different in size. What I feared most was the game taking matters into its own hands and spitting out a rigid, solid block of steel. That would be a nightmare. Luckily, this time, even though I couldn't tweak every single stat, I could at least design it the way I wanted. 2,000 units isn't enough. Then I'll just craft 3,000. Length and width don't matter. The most important thing is thickness. I have to max it out. No one is going to pierce the bottom of my ship. When it comes to a sense of security, I'm always overly cautious. I dragged the length and width sliders down to the minimum and pushed the thickness straight to the maximum. After confirming the parameters, I placed both hands on the 2 red buttons and pressed them simultaneously. The system began crafting. Whoosh, whoosh. The materials were sucked into the intake pipe. The furnace initiated the reaction. The casing was so thick I couldn't see inside. Aside from a few sizzling sounds like teeth being corroded, all the materials seemed to vanish into another dimension. Every minute, the 4 massive pipes vented plumes of white steam to dissipate heat. The temperature in the basement rose slightly. But strangely enough, even when I touched the furnace's casing, it wasn't hot at all. The surface was smooth and cold as marble. Sizzle, sizzle. Because I was waiting, those 5 minutes felt like a century. When I heard a clanking sound from inside, I knew the process was almost done. Clunk, clunk. The sound of the conveyor echoed. I immediately used my mind to open the storage vat behind the furnace. The steel transfer module was definitely not ordinary. A massive steel plate, larger than the conveyor belt itself, gleaming with a cold metallic luster, lay neatly inside the vat. Sensing my intent, the system automatically opened the vat, and the steel plate flew out, landing precisely on the ground. Holy crap, this furnace is seriously overpowered. The ridiculously thick steel plate sat heavily on the floor. I tried to lift it, but with my current physical strength, I could only raise one corner. I put it up on the trading market to check its weight. A light flashed, and the data appeared. 800 kilograms. No more, no less. Incredible. With this thickness and hardness, it's only 800 kilograms? It must have been mixed with auxiliary materials inside. Theoretically, the density of steel is 7.85 g/cm superscript 3. 1 cubic meter weighs nearly 8 tons. Just eyeballing it, this plate should weigh at least 2.5 to 3.5 tons. Yet it's only 800 kilograms. It's completely illogical unless there's some special material involved. But for a cost of 13 iron plus 1.5 copper, this is an absolute steal. I went up to the third floor, grabbed a high-quality tape measure I bought during the seed trade, and measured it. Length, 1,353 millimeters. Width, 765 millimeters. Thickness, 490 millimeters. The length and width were a bit skimpy considering the materials used, but the thing I cared about most, the thickness, was exactly as I requested. Nearly half a meter. I know for a fact that the Yamato battleship, a 72,000-ton super monster, only had a main armor belt 410 millimeters thick. It took 10 torpedoes and 24 bombs to sink it. Now, if my mini warship is clad in 490 millimeter armor all over, forget the alien races. Even a whole school of sea monsters wouldn't scare me. Looks like my initial estimate was a bit off. With this type of steel, I'll probably need at least 2,500 plates. With that kind of thickness, the ship's draft won't just be 1.5 meters. It'll definitely be over 2 meters. A rough calculation puts the ship's total displacement at around 2,000 tons. When fully loaded, the draft could reach 3 meters. When empty, it'll be a bit over 2 meters. Compared to modern destroyers weighing tens of thousands of tons, this ship is small. But in the current apocalypse, this is the biggest monster around. I used the storage inventory to move the steel down to the first floor and stacked it in the warehouse. The furnace's rumbling stopped, returning to silence. Right now, the diesel supply has to be prioritized for the automated machinery to harvest all the welfare disaster supplies. After the disaster, when the food storage is full, the surplus oil will be used to run the generator at full capacity to produce steel for the warship. Right now, the refugees out there have only just gotten full meals. There probably isn't much time left to develop before the flood arrives. But once the flood recedes, humanity will officially enter its first era of development. At that time, resources will definitely be the first thing people fight over. Whoever has resources has the right to develop faster, stronger, and even dominate the market. On Earth, every nation used resources to draw their borders. With resources, you can establish a territory. With a territory, you can gather people and form a faction. Thank goodness I found Magu's oil well ahead of everyone else, leading the era. As long as I keep upgrading the oil well, with its current output, using it for 30 to 50 years won't be a problem. Not to mention I have the resource recovery card. To be more precise, the oil is practically infinite. I organized a few bags of seeds, getting ready to sow them. Right then, the Earth Tiger's horn honked. Mu-air was back. I smiled, reined in my thoughts, waved him over, and brought the seeds to the black soil to begin the final planting season before the disaster. This time, traditional Chinese medicinal herbs took up a massive area, a full 2 mu. Thanks to the experience accumulated from previous attempts, both the fruit trees and herbs were easier to keep alive. The rate of yielding rare tier plants was also significantly higher. From only getting excellent tier before, now, as long as I focus completely, I can grow rare tier plants. After planting all 5 mu of land, it gradually got dark. Another busy day had passed. Was I tired? The answer goes without saying. I looked at Mu-air, who was slumped on the ground, panting like a bellows. I reached out and gently rubbed his head, a spot I normally couldn't reach. Without Mu-air, just this patch of land alone would have taken me 2 or 3 days to finish. Now, it was done much sooner, even though my whole body was dead tired. But seeing the sprouts begin to poke through the soil was the most rewarding prize for both of us. The rare tier apple tree was already over a meter tall. Its trunk thickened, and its canopy grew so fast you could visibly see it expanding. The rare tier plum tree grew even faster. It had already passed its initial stage and started sprouting scattered flower buds. A faint fragrance drifted in the wind. Some short-cycle herbs would be ready to harvest by tomorrow morning. As for plants like ginseng, which become more precious the older they get, they were currently absorbing nutrients from the soil with all their might. If only this new land didn't have disasters, how wonderful would that be? I stood up, bathed in the last rays of the sunset, and quietly headed back to the shelter with the 4 little ones. Tomorrow is the day of the massive harvest. Energy fruits, spring wheat, vegetables, cotton, fruit trees, herbs. All the hard work put into cultivating them has finally reached the day of reaping. Doomsday Calendar, February 2nd. The dragon raises its head. It's also the 2nd day of the Lunar New Year according to the old Hwasha calendar. The final day of the welfare disaster. Most survival camps have already reached the harvest stage. Even the lone wolves with barely any resources managed to buy a few packs of seeds yesterday. Thanks to the double cycle crops, they'll have enough food for half a year. More or less, today should have been a day of celebration. But no one can bring themselves to smile. Everyone's faces are filled with anxiety and unease. Why? The reason is obvious. Around 4 a.m., the weather changed. The World Channel immediately blew up with discussions. Since past 3 a.m., massive dark clouds have rolled in, completely blotting out the sky. Just looking at how thick they are, you can tell it's the kind of torrential rain that could wash away the very earth. Days of scorching sun had melted all the snow in the area, making people almost forget what rain even was. No one could have predicted this weather. No forecast, no warning signs. The dark clouds gathered way too fast. And the rain came at the exact right time. Not a moment too early, not a moment too late. Pouring down right on the final day of the welfare disaster, ruining the plans of countless people. Meanwhile, down in the basin. After finishing work and having a full meal last night, I went to bed early. Thanks to that, I woke up earlier than usual this morning. The sky was still dim. The sun hadn't even peeked over the horizon when the alarm from my brick phone went off. I sprang up like a leaping carp, feeling completely refreshed. Waking up without needing any time to shake off the grogginess is the absolute best feeling to start the day. My arms and core are brimming with strength. I lightly touched my newly forming abs, nodded in satisfaction, changed my clothes, and stepped out of the room. Balancing work with physical training. As long as I recover properly, my physique will only keep getting better. I ran through a set of my family's martial arts routine, wiped off my sweat, and took a walk around the 3rd floor of the shelter. I washed my face while opening the World Channel to catch up on the news. Why is it so crowded today? It's only a little past 6 a.m. Normally, the World Channel is a ghost town at this hour. Yet now it's as lively as a festival. The moment I saw what everyone was discussing, my expression instantly turned serious. It's actually raining? And it just had to happen today of all days. I quickly finished washing up, changed into my combat gear, hurried down the corridor, and opened the door to look outside. Sure enough, right above the basin, dark clouds were rolling in, completely covering the sky. At the edge of the horizon, lightning flashed amidst the clouds. A light breeze carried drifting snow, rustling against my protective suit. Looking at this, the rain definitely won't just last for half a day. In the end, it's exactly as recorded in Ma Gu's notebook. 7 days after the snow melts, there will be a heavy downpour. I nodded to myself. This rain might be a surprise to others, but for me, it was completely factored into my contingency plans. Yesterday, I told Shun to prioritize planting cotton and to hold off on the vegetables until the 3rd day, specifically to prepare for today's heavy rain. It looks like we have about 2 to 3 hours before the skies completely open up. If we rush to harvest early now, the yield will drop, but it's still acceptable. Over at the Zhuhua shelter, they started with over 2,000 caddies of seeds. Thanks to mechanizing almost the entire process, they've completed over 80% of the workload in just 2 days. The rest, like Napa cabbage, radishes, and soybeans, will be affected by the rain, but it won't be a total loss. It's still within an acceptable margin of error. By now, Shin's side should have already started working. I quickly skimmed the report sent earlier, called to give him a few more instructions, and hung up. Then, I started preparing breakfast and getting ready for my own harvest. Zhuhua is racing against the clock, so my underground shelter can't afford to slack off either. I planted a batch of fruit trees yesterday. Calculating the time, Today is exactly when the first crop is ready for harvest. If I wait until after the rain, the fruit might get overripe and lose its flavor. After breakfast, I drove the Dehu, bringing along all the necessary harvesting tools. Before I even arrived, the sweet scent of fruit hit my nose. Red and green apples hung heavily from the branches, weighing them down so much they were practically drooping. Golden apricots the size of a child's fist swayed in the wind like they were dancing an autumn waltz. Pink peaches, golden tangerines, white pears. Thanks to the black soil covering the market, the results are absolutely terrifying. These rare-grade trees, with their thousand-fold growth effect, have mostly reached the harvesting threshold. The trees come in all shapes and sizes, and the fruits are uneven. But right now, I don't have the luxury to be picky. I called out to Mu'er, grabbed my tools, and started a speed harvest. I climbed the trees and picked from the top down. Mu'er used its ultimate move, slamming into the trees to shake the fruit loose, then bending down to pick them up like a machine. Even Oreo, who had been watching for a bit, couldn't resist joining the harvest. Scratching and biting, its speed was dizzyingly fast. In less than an hour, the Dehu was fully loaded with fruit. Just as we were about to start the second round, the first drops of rain began to fall. Luckily, the speed of one human and 2 pets was fast enough. Before the torrential rain hit, we managed to harvest over 90% of the fruit. As for the rest, we'll just let them fall naturally to act as fertilizer, returning nutrients to the black soil. Boom! A blinding flash of lightning tore through the gloomy sky. Just as I parked the Dehu, thunder roared, and the downpour finally unleashed. In the blink of an eye, what used to be a white snowy expanse was now completely blanketed by rain. The air was humid, and the rain poured down like a crazy summer storm in June. In just a few seconds, the rain formed a sheer white curtain of water right in front of the shelter's entrance. Wow, it's really raining. It's actually raining. Seeing rain for the first time in its life, Mu'er was so excited it completely lost its mind. It rolled and crawled, rushing outside and howling like a kid getting a present. The warm raindrops fell on its soft fur, acting like a natural massage. Mu'er rolled around in pure bliss, looking exactly like a crazy bear. I burst out laughing. Seeing Oreo also run out howling like a wolf, I glanced back at the small mountain of freshly harvested fruit beside me. Finally, I found a little joy for myself. I brought out a high-quality folding chair I had traded for in the market, set it right by the main door, and grabbed an apple, enjoying this rare moment of leisure. Crunch, so sweet. Even though these apple trees were never pruned or shaped, and the fruit density far exceeded modern agricultural standards, just being rare grade with a high tastiness stat was enough to blow my mind with how good it tasted. With one bite, the apple juice burst out, sweet and refreshing, but not overpowering. It was the perfect, natural sweetness. A comfortable chair, a sky full of white rain, and fresh fruit. A bear rolling around like a maniac, a husky jumping endlessly, and 2 silly chickens fluttering about in a panic. Amidst this peaceful yet slightly chaotic scene, as I finished up the remaining tasks, the welfare disaster officially came to an end. Over at Zhuhua, after I gave the order to stop harvesting, everyone immediately headed back to take shelter from the rain. Just because they have food doesn't mean their bodies have fully recovered. With their bodies still so weak, getting caught in the rain would instantly lead to a cold and fever. Even with medicine, it would take me quite a while to cure them. It's not worth the risk. Not to mention, the amount of food we've harvested is already massive. The spring wheat alone is piled up into small mountains, and the vegetables have completely stuffed every room. There's barely any room to stand. People have these twisted expressions, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. When you've been poor for so long, striking it rich suddenly leaves you completely bewildered. This feeling of sudden wealth makes everything feel a bit surreal. Today's unexpected rain acted like a bucket of cold water, extinguishing their crazy ambitions and forcing everyone to calm down. Of course, the longer it rains, the more anxious they get. They had to grab umbrellas and go clear the drains, terrified that a few days of continuous rain would wash away their entire food supply. When it rains on snow in sub-zero temperatures, or even up to 6 degrees Celsius, it forms an incredibly thick layer of ice. But with the current temperature, the snow underneath will start to melt. The next disaster, 9 times out of 10, will be a flood. Every drop of rain carries heat. When it hits the rock-hard snow, it's no different from throwing water into a pan of boiling oil. Bubbles form on the ice surface before merging into streams of water flowing into the earth, greedily absorbed by the plants. I sat at the door from morning till noon, and from noon till evening, quietly watching the rain fall. It wasn't until Zhuhua finished their inventory count that I finally stood up, rubbing my slightly numb shoulders. If we transport all of this back tomorrow, as long as nothing unexpected happens, I'll never have to worry about food again. Thanks to the system's automatic weighing feature, Zhuhua's yield statistics for this harvest are incredibly accurate. As the owner of a 70% share, my cut is unbelievably huge. Spring wheat was sown in 5 batches, covering a cumulative area of 929 mu. The average yield per mu is 1,846 caddies. Total production, after accounting for losses, 1.71 million caddies of wheat. Because there wasn't enough sun to dry it properly, the milling yield is slightly lower than expected, sitting at 72%. By my calculations, I've harvested a total of 1.23 million caddies of flour. Out of that, my personal share is 860,000 caddies, which is roughly 430 tons. Flour has a density of about 0.52 grams per cubic centimeter. That means 1 cubic meter holds around 500 kilograms of flour. So, 430 tons equals 860 cubic meters. In just 3 days of the welfare disaster, I gathered enough flour to fill 860 cubic meters of storage space. I could only laugh helplessly. Damn, it's true what they say. Happiness can also become a burden. Even though I calculated it beforehand, facing the actual numbers still gives me a bit of a headache. I looked up and sighed. With this much food, how should I design a proper storage room? Before, when I was planning to increase production and utilize every inch of land, I wasn't worried. Even after going through all sorts of torture in the time ruin, I still wasn't worried. Throughout the planting process, despite facing numerous obstacles, I didn't waver. Yet, when it came time for the actual harvest, looking at the base's attribute panel in the game interface, my head started to throb. Right now, I still have 8 intact base cores in my hands, so I don't have to worry about the number of floors at all. Tomorrow, I can also harvest energy fruits to replace the broken cores, and then immediately expand the base's area. I reminded myself that it's best not to place the cold storage on the lower 2 floors. It'd be much better to set up a dedicated area right next to the base. The base is currently at LV.2, but the conditions for LV.3 have already been met. I just need to pay 1,000 disaster points, and it's done. In fact, after this welfare disaster, I'll easily gather enough for the basic requirements of LV.4. LV.3 unlocks the shelter skill, while the new function of LV.4 makes me both look forward to it and sparks a few ideas. LV.2 has an interconnectivity function, sharing buffs within a certain range. In the underground base, there are currently 2 strange buffs. The Sphinx's wind, which has already been restructured, and the mermaid's water, which is currently sitting idle. I touched my chin, thinking, should I try restructuring the mermaid's buff? Who knows, maybe I can adjust the temperature or even use it as air conditioning. I spread the base's overall blueprint on the table and started sketching. The new food storage, floor 1.5, needs to hold 880 cubic meters of flour. It requires moisture-proofing, insulation, and regular ventilation. The vegetable storage needs low temperatures and insulation, but most vegetables can be pickled, so it's not a big deal. As for the fruits, they can either be made into jam or put into cold storage to extend their shelf life. The design I'm sketching out consists of 2 floors. On the right side of the underground base, I'll place a new base core to create a complete underground sector. All surface entrances and downward passages will be dug out and sealed off so no one can intrude from above. Next, I'll use the interconnectivity function so the new base sector shares the same materials and connects directly to the main base, functioning as a single entity. A passageway will be opened from the 2nd floor of the main base to the food storage area. Normally, this passage will be sealed to keep the cold in, only opening when we need to fetch supplies. Having drawn so many times, plus the hands-on experience taught by the system, I've accumulated quite a bit of expertise. With just a few strokes, the shape of the new food storage became clear. But whether the design is recognized or not depends on the system. I activated the scanning feature. The green light retracted, and the familiar info panel instantly popped up without me having to mutter a word. Food storage blueprint. Rarity, normal. Description. A blueprint created by the amateur architect, Su Mo. The structure has no fatal flaws, but nothing stands out either. The overall style is bulky and crude, with almost zero aesthetic appeal. However, the safety level is absolutely abnormal, so it still has its bright spots. Upgrade Direction 1, Natural Storage. Simulates a natural storage environment. Strong thermal retention, light ventilation. Minor spatial structure alterations, adds natural shelving. Increases preservation time. Costs nearly 380 survival points. Upgrade Direction 2, Snow Storage. Keeps the original concept. Greatly enhances cooling and cold retention. Slightly increases storage capacity. Greatly enhances dehumidification, adds storage trays, natural refrigerators, and drainage pipes. Slightly increases preservation time. Costs nearly 420 survival points. Upgrade Direction 3, Dark Energy Storage. Complete restructuring. Integrates dark energy technology, having the food decomposition rate. Doubles cold freshness, providing each type of food with its own ecological environment. Comprehensive preservation optimization. Costs nearly 19,800 survival points. Evaluation. Mr. Su Mo, the field of architecture is as deep as the ocean. You're not quite there yet. Better leave it to the pros. I rolled my eyes. Huh. Are you saying improving my blueprint is more expensive than starting from scratch? System, are you looking down on me? Before, every time I drew a design, I had to chant for ages before the system would show the attribute panel. But now, it pops up the moment I finish drawing. That alone proves my design skills have significantly improved. Thinking about it a bit more, if I study this systematically later, maybe one day, I'll be able to design everything from bases to future cities with my own hands. I shook my head. The dark energy direction is out. Nearly 20,000 points just for the blueprint. Upgrading the actual storage would probably cost an astronomical amount. Too expensive. Direction 1 simulates natural storage, while Direction 2 builds on the original design and adds cooling. I read over the two options again and again, analyzing their pros and cons. Then, I gave a slight nod. I choose Upgrade Direction 2. As soon as I spoke, 420 survival points were deducted from my status panel. A beam of green light swept straight across the blueprint in front of me. The scribbled lines from earlier instantly became neat and clear. The symbols and dimensions I had drawn like a folk artist were now standardized into a professional format, ready to be inputted straight into the system for construction. Extremely convenient. Even the handwritten notes I scribbled in the margins were automatically converted into standard design language and neatly marked. It didn't cost many points, and the improvement time was incredibly fast. In just about 20 seconds, the green light faded, and the newly completed blueprint was produced by the system. I muttered to myself, the system's natural storage simulation is pretty cool, but given the current situation, using the cold buff to make a cold storage is the most practical. Under cold storage conditions, everything from flour to vegetables will easily last 2 to 3 years without spoiling. As for the future, who knows, I might have more advanced methods and won't even need to worry about preservation anymore. With the high-tech signal tower in hand, I have zero worries about the base's technological level for the next few years. I'm even more confident than usual. After all, I still have 2 lottery spins left before the new year. If I get lucky, I might win some treasure and unlock the entire tech tree. That's the thought, anyway, but right now everything is still too vague to rely on. I shook my head, tossing all those wild fantasies out of my mind. I exported the new blueprint into my storage space and headed down to the first floor, which was piled high with harvested fruit. The total amount of fruit is estimated to be around 4 to 5 tons. Even if I let Muir lie on the pile and eat to his heart's content, he wouldn't be able to make a dent in it. Most of these fruits will eventually have to be made into jam for preservation. I started with the ones that were bruised or damaged. I still can't go outside, so I need to make the most of this time and process them as quickly as possible. Making fruit jam isn't hard. Take apples, for example. Just peel them, core them, steam them once, and then dry them in the sun. Looking at the dark clouds scattering outside, I'm guessing tomorrow will be a beautiful sunny day. With that in mind, I hauled the pots and pans up to the first floor, opened the door, and started a fire to steam the fruit. Trays of fruit were stacked layer by layer on the steamer. With the Sphinx's help, the fire burned fiercely. Steam rose, drawing out most of the water from the fruits. Once steamed, I spread them out evenly on the ground to air dry naturally. I didn't dry them in the sun right away to preserve their sweetness and flavor. I worked while snacking on them. For the first batch, the one big and 4 little guys ate like they'd been starved. By the second batch, they could only handle about a third. By the third batch, even Oreo, who was addicted to dried apples, started getting scared. Terrified of being force-fed, he bolted up to the second floor like he was running for his life. The 2 chickens weren't doing much better, clucking and waddling after Oreo to escape this fruity torture. Only Muir was still going strong. He could eat savory, he could eat sweet. With one hand, he helped me peel, and with the other, he secretly popped fruits into his mouth, munching away. Lately, he's been drinking Yun energy water nonstop, so it's like he's unlocked another level of intelligence. While the rain drizzled outside, Muir started recounting a bunch of old tales from the Thunderbear clan. Master Suemo, Muir remembers a lot of things lately. In our Thunderbear clan, the chef aunties used to make jam exactly like this. I glanced at him and asked, "Oh, do you remember where your clan lived? Was it also in this wasteland?" The origins of the alien races here have always been a massive mystery. Even the ancient human race, despite being wiped out, still left behind countless questions. Hearing my question, Muir paused for a beat. He tried to remember, then suddenly shook his big bare head and mumbled, "No, Muir's home isn't here. It's not in this land. Where we lived, there were 3 moons." Then he went on, saying his clan's home was in a super huge forest, where fairies would often gift them delicious water. There were dwarves who brought fruits to trade for materials, and a strange person who handed out recipe books. If you followed them, the food was unimaginably good. Those dwarves' fruits were insanely delicious. Way better than our apples. Speaking of which, his drool started flowing again. He stuffed 2 massive apples into his mouth, chewing loudly. I immediately asked, "Do you remember what kind of fruit it was? What did it taste like?" As I asked, I watched him closely. Just as I suspected, Muir's peeling hand suddenly froze. His face went blank, looking dazed, as if he had just lost a piece of his memory, or like someone had wiped that specific memory from his mind. Yeah, why can't Muir remember what those fruits tasted like? It wasn't apple juice, and it wasn't the smell of noodles with fat, but Muir still remembers they were delicious. In his memory, the food was clearly amazing. So why couldn't he recall the taste? After drinking the Yun energy water for a while, his intellect had awakened. He himself was noticing the anomaly. His memory told him it was delicious, but when he tried to recall it, there was nothing but emptiness. This contradiction would send chills down anyone's spine, let alone a bear's. But the moment I asked, I already knew Muir would have a hard time answering. I patted his shoulder and smiled gently. "It's okay if you don't remember. Later on, I'll take you to eat every single one of those things again. Then we'll really enjoy them." Seeing him racking his brain while still munching on apples, I just shook my head and smiled, trying to comfort him. All right. Muir will definitely become the strongest culinary warrior of the Thunderbear clan. The moment the little bear was comforted, he instantly tossed all his worries aside and happily went back to work like nothing happened. To him, as long as he had food to eat and a place to sleep, that was enough. All the mysteries and troubles were left for me to worry about. That's the true life of a happy bear. And he was right. The fragmented pieces of information Muir recalled, once pieced together, really gave me more clues about this world. More importantly, about the true purpose of the game that threw all of humanity in here. If the place Muir used to live was full of delicious food, but he lost his sense of taste, then what exactly does this game want? To harvest human despair? The more I speculated, the more I realized I needed more data. Otherwise, it's all just a thick fog obscuring the path ahead, something human history has proven time and time again. I muttered to myself, I'll just note these things down for now. Once I get to the space station or excavate more ruins, I'll be able to verify it. If I gather enough clues to see the game's true purpose, I can stay one step ahead of everyone else. Right now, my mindset is very simple. Rebel against the game? No. That's a job for those chosen one protagonists. While the game hasn't fully revealed its malice, the only way to survive the disasters is to rely on the tech modules and the strange features of the system. As long as I'm alive, there's hope. Survive, then develop, and rise step by step. Until the day humanity is strong enough to no longer fear any disaster. Only then will we have the right to show our hand to the game. Before that, we must endure. Pour all our energy into developing in one single direction. I laughed at myself. I'm still a bit reckless. If games with monitoring features catch me plotting rebellion, I'm dead meat. Thinking about the information left by predecessors that could help me avoid death flags, along with the optimism Moore infected me with, I gradually felt relieved. The corners of my mouth unconsciously curled up. A sense of security is sometimes very simple. No matter how strong the game is, it's not as strong as the system. Caught between two big bosses, squeezing through every crack to grow, at least for a long time to come, I don't need to worry too much. There's only one thing I need to do right now. Surpass all other players and become the first leader of humanity. That's enough. In the garage, steam billowed thickly, and the smell of ripe fruit spread everywhere. Outside the door, a light rain fell, washing away the melting snow and softening the stubborn remaining ice blocks. Time ticked by bit. From noon to evening, and after dinner until late at night. Dealing with these long-term vitamin supplements, I was surprisingly patient. The garage was now stacked with layers of steamed and dried fruit, the shelves completely full. It was the result of a whole day's work. Moore worked until he was tired, slept, woke up to eat a few bites, and went back to work. By 11:30 p.m., the fruit was almost entirely processed. Aside from a few perfect ones, all the bruised and squashed ones had been turned into jam. I let out a sigh of relief. Phew, finally done. The rain is about to stop. Tomorrow should be sunny. I stepped out the door and looked up at the sky, where the dark clouds had parted, casting long, curved beams of light onto the ground. The long rain brought surprisingly fresh air. The ground was just a bit muddy, but right now, I didn't care. In my line of sight, the 10 primal energy trees I had kept earlier were all bearing bright red fruit. Under the moonlight, these energy fruits looked like the ginseng fruits from Journey to the West. Their bright red color looked like glazed glass, radiating gentle waves of moonlight. I pulled down my mask, unable to hide my smile, and walked quickly over to observe them. The 2 trees that only got a little yun energy water bore smaller fruits, but the 8 trees that were fully nourished did not disappoint me at all. The ones with fewer fruits had 40, while the ones with more had a whopping 65. A quick calculation showed that just 8 trees produced nearly 400 fruits. That means it's equivalent to 400 broken base cores, enough to expand the base area by 4,000 square meters. I shuddered slightly. If it weren't for this welfare disaster, these fruits would have taken 9 years to grow, and it would have cost a ton of yun energy water every single day. Who could afford that? They'll be fully ripe in about 30 minutes. Right when the welfare disaster ends and the harvest begins. Looking around, wary of any mutants drawn by the light, I called Moore and Oreo over. 1 man, 1 bear, and 1 dog stood guard together. Luckily, the basin had already been cleared of creatures. With Oreo's tracking abilities, any stragglers that accidentally wandered in were immediately chased off. I stood in front of the small grove, checking my watch, looking up, and then looking back at the fruits. When the hour hand struck exactly 12 o'clock midnight, just as I was about to start harvesting, a brilliant orange light suddenly crashed down from the sky, covering this entire desolate wasteland. I looked up, stunned. What is this? The golden light blotted out the sky and covered the earth. An extremely bad premonition slowly rose in my heart. Memories of the last major game update, when the compliance phase ended, slowly surfaced. Don't tell me. The game is about to update again? The golden light was still spreading, but the system remained completely silent. Not a single notification. The light seemed to be scanning. From the horizon, it slowly swept across the ground. Whatever it scanned was first dyed gold, then slowly returned to its original color. On the game interface, from the chat box and crafting menu to the trading market, everything was forcibly closed. A giant lock appeared, locking down all functions. At the same time, a 5-minute maintenance countdown began ticking. A chill instantly ran down my spine. Wait, this light is looking for something. Don't tell me it's looking for me. According to Magu's diary, the players in this round are much stronger than the previous batch. Just the half-year food supply alone. Almost everyone managed to hoard enough, something the previous group couldn't do at all. With this much food, many disasters that were considered world-ending are no longer worthy of the name. Clearly, something higher up is not happy. That thing wants to find the variable that's altering the entire course of the game. I shuddered. Crap. Could it be that this golden light doesn't belong to the game? If so, I'm really screwed. A sharp sense of danger surged from deep within my soul, making me almost jump onto the earth tiger to flee. But before I could do anything, the system's warning exploded in my head. Warning. Unknown energy detected scanning data. Warning. Unknown entity detected tracking individual. Risk assessment for linked host SU-MO. Extremely high. High probability of all information being exposed. Would you like to spend 500 survival points to simulate data? Please confirm immediately. 15, 14. The warning sirens blared like punches to my ears. The moment I heard the word simulate, I immediately confirmed the payment of 500 points. I can't be discovered. I can't gamble. I need absolute safety. And just as I expected, that decision saved my life. A familiar green light from the system enveloped my entire body, scanned me once, and then retracted. At the same time, the golden light swept over the underground base area. At first, it was moving at over 10 meters per second. But when it touched the base, it seemed to get stuck, its speed dropping to a snail's pace. Even with the naked eye, I could clearly see various strange colors appearing in many areas of the base. The green of the walls, the black of the earth tiger, the purple of the yuan energy water, and other mixed colors. It was incredibly glaring against the golden background. The beam of light hovering above seemed to notice the anomaly. All the light seemed to turn its gaze downward, preparing to scrutinize every nook and cranny. Just a few seconds later, the golden light shone directly on me, standing under the canopy of the energy trees. Damn it, I'm exposed. The connection between me and the base has been discovered. The base developed way too fast. There's clearly an outside element interfering. Once it confirms I'm an anomaly too, I'll definitely be eradicated. I took a deep breath. Try to stay calm. Phew. Heavy breathing echoed in the darkness. Just as the golden light was about to sweep over me, I took the initiative and stepped forward. One step, like crossing between two worlds. Within that mysterious golden light, all sensation vanished. Ancient whispers echoed from all directions, as if interrogating me about something. Right at that moment, the system's green light activated again. It wrapped around me from head to toe, not even missing my eardrums. The green light completely isolated all outside noise, helping me stabilize my mind. And strangely enough, standing enveloped in the golden light didn't hurt at all. On the contrary, it felt like soaking in warm water, so comfortable I almost let out a groan. My whole body glowed like a bronze statue, my skin reflecting a brilliant, pure, and blinding gold. No matter how you looked at it, in this clash of powers, the system had won. 1 minute. 2 minutes. The golden light inspected me endlessly but found no errors. Finally, though unwilling, it had to give up and continue scanning elsewhere. The maintenance countdown also hit 0. I gasped for air. Holy crap, I almost died. Is this the real reason behind those so-called punishment disasters? I stood there in a daze, cold sweat soaking my back. In less than 5 minutes, I felt like I had taken a stroll through the underworld and crawled back out. The reasons that used to make me wonder why punishment disasters existed now had an answer. If the game is the magistrate of this world, then all humans, alien races, and mutants are just the commoners. The game only needs to run smoothly, with clear rewards and punishments. As for who cheats, it doesn't matter, as long as the outcome doesn't destroy the world. But that golden light was like an imperial inspector, specifically hunting down corrupt officials. This batch of players is too outstanding, far surpassing the old ones. To the point where it makes people suspicious. It's too suspicious. There must be cheating. So the golden light started hunting for the cheaters. Once caught, not only does that person die, but the whole world might be thrown into a punishment disaster. But now that the golden light is gone, does that mean the punishment disaster is gone too? Can the game update normally again? Just as I thought that, the update bar appeared. I quickly reopened the game panel. Sure enough, the system's sound went crazy, firing off a barrage of notifications. 10, 15. It took 23 lines before the system finally stopped. And then, the familiar gentle voice echoed in the minds of all players. Record. Detected game progress far exceeding expectations. The system will automatically adjust the version. The second version update will begin in 20 natural days. World version 2.0, Ocean Mutation trailer, is about to be released. Record. Detected humanity's development progress exceeds the second-place race by 685%. The entire human race will receive version 2.0 privileges and the right to preview the next 3 disasters. Congratulations to human players. MO time remaining until the next disaster, 21 days. You can check the Messages tab for details. Sure enough, the future is constantly changing. Those prophecy talismans can't measure a thing. The punishment disaster, that massive flood, it really disappeared, replaced by a completely new disaster. I stood frozen, listening to the string of system sounds ringing in my ears. Looking at the new disaster warning function on the interface, my heart churned violently. Compared to the energy fruit orchard changing due to the world talisman, the fact that the entire disaster was rewritten is the real tearing of the future. The past, I stepped in and changed it. The future, the system shielded me from the golden light's scan, causing it to veer onto a different path. 3 timelines have now diverged. And it all started because of me alone. I exhaled sharply, a thought flashing through my mind. No, if the game defaults to everything progressing like this, it's very likely time doesn't operate the way I think it does. Then I laughed, comforting myself. But hey, if everything is about to blow up, please don't hold me responsible. Sumo, I won't take the blame. Constantly encountering things beyond my predictions, even I don't know if interfering with the timeline is good or bad. But at least for now, I'm still alive. In one piece. I reminded myself, after this stunt, I need to keep at least 3,000 to 4,000 survival points on hand. Just in case I get scanned by the golden light again, I'll have something to counter it. 500 points to buy my life. What a steal. I slowly exhaled, releasing the knot of tension in my chest. I placed a hand over my still pounding heart, then closed the game interface. The energy fruits were fully ripe. Now was the time to harvest. I called Muir over. This time, 1 man and 1 bear were extremely careful, not daring to bruise a single fruit. From the first tree to the last, only when everything was safely stored away did I truly breathe a sigh of relief. The harvest was great. Level 3 fruits, 386. Level 2 fruits, 41. Level 1 fruits, 46. I casually tossed 2 level 2 fruits to Muir, who had been drooling while working, and threw 2 more to Oreo. As for myself, I grabbed a level 1 fruit, headed back up to the 3rd floor, and opened the game interface while eating. The gentle sweetness melted in my mouth. This low-level fruit has the effect of purifying impurities. But for me, someone who has been drinking yin energy water for a long time, it's just a snack now, offering only minor support. After finishing it, I felt a cold light flash in the depths of my eyes. The fear from earlier vanished completely, replaced by a blazing confidence. So what if I dodge the golden light this time? If I get exposed later, as long as I develop fast enough, with the system in hand, I can definitely fight back. Without rushing to check the messages, I switched to the newly appeared disaster warning feature. Completely different from the small notifications in the bottom right corner, this time the game added a dedicated module, displaying full details of the upcoming disasters. As soon as I clicked it, 3 disaster forecasts appeared clearly before my eyes. 21 days until the 4th disaster. Event: Awakening of the Sea God. Description: the cycle of the sun and moon, the trembling of the earth's veins. The gods who once died on the wasteland are awakening under the call of the world's power. In this version, a sea god who was severely injured and sank deep into the dragon veins will awaken. The ocean revives, submerging the entire wasteland. Event manifestation: within 24 hours, the entire world will be swallowed by seawater. At the center of the sea's eye, the maximum depth will reach 18,888 meters. The water level varies depending on the distance to the center. After 108 hours, 20% of the unclaimed areas will rise, becoming the new continent. Current location of players Su-Mo, submerged by the sea. Elevation, minus 18 meters below sea level. 24 days until the fifth disaster. Event, alien invasion. Description, in the marine environment, humanity will not only face the ocean but also new alien races rising from the seabed. They are the new rulers, bringing despair but also marine food. At the very beginning, this is both a disaster and a disguised welfare event. Event manifestation. Over 240 hours, more than 50 million marine aliens will land in waves. In the first 72 hours, 575 trillion tons of auxiliary creatures will follow. 81 days until the sixth disaster. Event, tsunami. Description, legend has it that the heartbeat of the sea god is the surging waves. The closer the god, the stronger the waves. Now that the god has awakened, the ocean will unleash its wrath. Event manifestation. Over 7 days, the tsunami will continuously upgrade. Predicted wave height at my location. 18 meters to 22 meters, then to 24 meters. Next is 27 meters, then 31 meters, up to 35 meters, and finally 39 meters. I stared wide-eyed. Holy crap. 3 consecutive disasters, each more vicious than the last. The last one is literally designed to strangle players. I thought that flood was the limit. Who knew there was a super tsunami waiting right behind it? Looking at the interface, the words Sea God were constantly highlighted in quotes. I quietly pulled out the ocean wave conch, the reward from the airdrop, my eyes darkening. This conch was previously noted by the system. Just blow it, and you can wield a fraction of the sea god's power. I used to think these titles were just to scare people, but now, the sea god is actually coming back to life. Even before fully awakening, it's causing the entire wasteland to be submerged by the sea. The highest punishment flood was only over 30 meters, yet the tsunami this time in the basin could reach 35 meters. A 35-meter tsunami, what does that mean? The Chile tsunami that left over 2 million people homeless was only 25 meters. The record Ryukyu tsunami was 85 meters. The Indian Ocean tsunami that killed hundreds of thousands of people was only about 10 meters. I swallowed hard. If the high-altitude basin is getting hit by 35 meters, wouldn't the lower downstream areas face tsunamis over 100 meters high? A 100-meter tsunami is no different from a small nuclear bomb. Even alien races skilled at swimming, facing this kind of power, would just be raw meat waiting to be smashed to pieces. Ordinary boats and ships would be crushed to splinters with just a light lick of the waves. Creatures living under the sea could only look up and pray to the heavens. The only way to survive is to climb a mountain thousands of meters high. Otherwise, you have to grit your teeth, cross the sea, and find the new continent that will rise after the disaster. I calculated quietly. 81 days until the tsunami hits. If I start building a ship right now, I'll have at least 60 days to set sail. As long as I maintain a speed of 20 knots, the chances of survival are quite high. I narrowed my eyes and opened the map I had drawn from memory using the mountain and sea picture scroll card, immediately marking the location of the resource shelter where my sister was. In the rising sea scenario, that location will sink 300 to 500 meters deep. If they want to live, they have to retreat 5,000 to 6,000 kilometers to find high mountains rising from the sea. But doing so means charging straight into the most dangerous deep-sea zones, where they could take a direct hit from the real tsunami. Frankly speaking, survival is almost hopeless. I clench my fists. The tundra must migrate, and the only direction is towards the basin. I took a deep breath and started calculating. It's just middle school math. I go down, with an engine and tailwind, 20 knots. The tundra goes up, against the wind, no engine, 2 to 5 knots. Distance, 15,000 kilometers. 1 knot is 1.852 kilometers per hour. Total combined speed, roughly 40 kilometers per hour. Time to meet, 15,000 divided by 40 equals 375 hours, approximately 15.6 days. As the numbers became clear, I couldn't contain my excitement. I slammed the table and jumped up. Just 15 days. In just 15 days, I can see my sister again. After that, I still have a full 45 days to retreat, return to the basin to gather the Zhuhor refugees, and still have a whole month to find a safe haven. There's plenty of time. Compared to my previous estimate of 25 days at the fastest and 30 to 40 days at the slowest, now I only need 15 days to cross the sea and reunite. Those dozen or so days saved reduce countless risks and elevate our safety by a whole level. I clench my fists. I used to think that flood was my chance to save my sister. I didn't expect the game to be so understanding of human desires. The ocean is incredibly dangerous, true, but it's also full of opportunities. As long as I reunite with my sister, we can go anywhere in this world. Suemo will take her across the ends of the earth. After confirming the two intersecting red routes, I folded the map, returned to my chair, and opened all the system notifications. The disaster is set. What I need to do now is carefully read the version 2.0 update, then upgrade the base tomorrow and start crafting a destroyer, while others are paddling on torn rafts and broken boats. I'll be on a destroyer, descending upon the ocean like a god to those sea creatures. It'll be a literal dimensional strike of destruction. While I was deep in thought, a light flashed. All the final notifications had finished loading. System notification, record, the third welfare disaster has ended. Total fatalities among the human race, 112,899,241. Record, the wasteland world enters its mid-phase. The ocean world officially launches. Record, tallying of the third round's reward points is complete. Record, congratulations to the human race for achieving the title of #1 race across all species in the wasteland phase. Phase 2 privileges activated. Record, privileges will be distributed starting at 12 p.m. tomorrow based on disaster response rankings. Non-tradable, non-transferable. Record, the rules for the ocean version have been announced. Please check the Pioneer trailer for details. Record, restructuring the regional channels. Maximum of 10,000 players per region. Record, update. For trading rules, please see the new system. Final record, we wish you a happy gaming experience. I nodded. This time, every human receives privileges thanks to the welfare disaster. With privileges, we should have enough power to defend ourselves against the marine aliens. It's only 1 a.m. There are still over 10 hours before the privileges are distributed, so I can't see them yet. Instead, a new trading rule immediately caught my eye. I clicked on it, and a light flashed. The new market rules appeared. Market rules, new version. Previously, all transactions required paying disaster points. Oh, now, you can choose to pay a percentage tax or pay disaster points. New. Food tax, under 100 kilograms. Either pay 50 points or incur a 50% tax, losing half the goods. Over 100 kilograms, tax decreases gradually. For every 100 kilograms, it drops by 1%, down to a minimum of 30%. Quality items. Trading an excellent item requires paying an equivalent excellent item as tax, or paying 100 disaster points. I sighed. Points really are the most important thing. Without them, surviving in this wasteland is basically impossible. Closing the market interface, I opened the disaster points distribution section. Last time, because 2 disasters overlapped, I should have gotten a lot of points from the blizzard, but the dog got interfered, so the total reward was exactly 3,000 points. After spending it on various things, I only had 2,012 points left. Not enough to upgrade the shelter or learn blueprints. But this time, thanks to surviving the welfare disaster perfectly, plus having hundreds of thousands of caddies of flour in reserve, the disaster point reward reached 10,000 points. No strings attached. When I confirmed the reward, the points instantly jumped into my accumulated total. I laughed in delight. These points really solve my immediate thirst. Upgrading the shelter to level 3 only takes 1,000 points. Level 4 will probably be 1,000 to 2,000 points. Learning blueprints too. I'll still have plenty left. Getting rich off my existing foundation, I quickly regained my composure. Then I continued checking the new features of this update, specifically the Pioneer trailer for the ocean mutation. I hit play. A long piece of music swelled, and images began to unfold before my eyes. At the same time, a mechanical voice, speaking in standard Mandarin, echoed evenly, explaining the rules in the trailer. The trailer lasted a full half hour. When the screen finally stopped, the sound gradually faded. I sat on the sofa, drinking a glass of energy water to clear my head, then took out a pen and paper. I wrote down every point as I listened, making sure I didn't miss anything. I rewound it a second time, skipping the fluff and focusing solely on listening to the main rules over and over. In just about 10 minutes, all the important details were neatly summarized on the paper. A short page of information, but packed tight. As I looked at it and pondered, my expression grew increasingly serious. If this trailer was only visible to humans, it wouldn't be so bad. But if every creature in this wasteland knew its contents, then it was truly a massive problem. The trailer was as flashy as a blockbuster movie, but in reality, it was just telling an epic story about the sea god's awakening. I opened the paper, muttering each point, trying to understand the meaning behind the words. Before this land collapsed, the gods who once held the laws here needs verification. Then one day, a strange force appeared, and the gods fought until they were exhausted. Death, severe injuries, collapse, slumber. Basically, they were all wiped out. As time passed, many slumbering gods began to awaken. They want to regain control. Why? What is their true purpose? The sea god is the first to awaken. All surviving creatures in the wasteland will receive a reward from him, or a punishment. If conditions are met, there's even a chance to become the sea god's envoy. What does that really mean? 5 points. Brief, but enough to show the level of danger. The last 10 minutes were the truly terrifying part, the new survival rules. I wrote them down very carefully. Rule 1. Killing an alien creature within the ocean area grants 5 disaster points. Maximum of 100 points per day. Rule 2. Before the sea god awakens, the system will calculate the average score of each race. The race with the highest score will receive ocean privileges. Rule 3. If you exterminate a race or kill more than 500,000 alien creatures, you will receive a 5-kilometer teleportation right to reach the new continent. 3 rules. It's no different from pushing all creatures into a frenzied war. If you want points, you have to kill. If you want to get ahead, you have to kill even more. I can't fathom the malice of this game, but just these 3 rules are enough to turn the sea red with blood. However, where there are rules for slaughter, there are also perks. Even if meager, it's still a welfare benefit to give the remaining races a glimmer of hope. For humanity, the 3 most important perks are: 1. All deployed core centers can be materialized into items to be carried elsewhere. When redeployed, levels and buffs are wiped, but the placement location is no longer restricted. 2. After materialization, the core center can be deployed as a wooden cabin, an underground bunker, or a new form, a wooden raft. Just drop the core into the sea, and you instantly get a 3x3 raft. 3. After the update, the crafting system unlocks a marine equipment section. By combining enough modules and disaster points, the raft can be automatically upgraded. These 3 points hit humanity's biggest fear right on the head: how to survive on the sea. Materialize the core to take it with you. When the sea comes, drop it to form a raft, and keep going. If you have modules, upgrade the raft, upgrade the core. Whether you survive or sink depends entirely on your own abilities. Thinking up to this point, I truly felt the naked ambition of this game. The world will probably spread this information very quickly. But so what if they know? Without strength, without upgrading yourself, without fighting your own battles, you'll just be a drifter on the sea. I gripped the paper tightly and sighed softly. My core cannot be moved. This underground shelter is all my blood, sweat, and resources from the very beginning. The crop fields, the oil well, the thermal power system, I can't abandon any of it. Therefore, I absolutely must seize that 5-kilometer teleportation right. If conditions permit, I'll even move that forgotten satellite base to the new continent as well. A glint of murderous intent flashed in my eyes. With my current strength, the alien races that others view as fierce tigers are nothing more than a basket of EXP to me. Aside from the unknown deep-sea creatures, I fear no creature currently on land. As long as I survive the upcoming ocean disaster, I'll meet the conditions to upgrade the shelter to level 5, and then I can learn mid-tier mechanical blueprints. Once I have high-tier machinery, mounting hundreds of CIWS on the ship will be the standard. If I'm poor, I'll fire single shots. If I'm rich, I'll blanket the whole area in firepower. I took a deep breath, immediately revising my plan. A comprehensive change of plans. Tomorrow morning, we start full-scale steel production. The entire Zhuhua shelter team must move here to mine ore. The wheat doesn't need to be fully milled yet. Enough to eat for half a year is fine. The vegetables will be dried or pickled. The rest of the wheat will be stored deep in the shelter. We'll figure it out once we move to the new continent. I clench my fists. I have to start right now. I must act immediately. In 20 days, I have to build a destroyer capable of crossing the ocean. I slammed my hand on the sofa. Even though the clock pointed to 2 a.m., I didn't feel tired at all. My blood was boiling with passion, and my mind was as taut as a bowstring. Upgrading the shelter, no waiting for morning. Tonight, I'm going up 2 levels straight and learning the complete shelter blueprints while I'm at it. My shelter has survived 3 disasters, plus 2 times topping the leaderboards, which counts double. That's exactly 5 times in total. In the time ruin, when I fused Magu's core, I figured out the upgrade rules. To reach level 3, you need to survive 3 disasters. Already met. To reach level 4, you need 5 times. A perfect match. If the next disaster hits the global top 10, the condition for level 5, 7 times, will also be met. I jumped up. No more hesitating. Choosing a time is worse than doing it right now. Upgrade immediately. I woke up the sleeping little ones, then glanced at Muir, who had only just climbed up to the first floor and was now snoring away on the ground. I chuckled and opened the game interface with a thought. All the conditions, from the surface structures to the underground ones, thanks to some god-tier buff, were fully met. Right below, the upgrade button glowed a brilliant gold, looking just like those blood-sucking web games, only missing the text. If you've got the guts, click here, bro. I double-checked to make sure there were no hidden costs. Then my will formed a giant hand and slammed the upgrade button. 1,000 disaster points vanished. Instantly, the familiar earthquake erupted. Rumble. Chunks of dirt fell from the ceiling. The underground shelter shook like an ancient god awakening. The heartbeat grew stronger and steadier, echoing deep into the ground. The 4 little ones lying on the floor felt the ground turn into cotton candy, soft enough to gently rock them. So comfy. Muir rolled over, hugging the floor, finding a better sleeping position. To him, as long as I was here, there was no danger. Even Oreo, who usually had the highest vigilance, just lazily opened one eye to look at me before going back to sleep. As for the 2 little chickens, Dahua and Xiaohua, they were truly stable divine chickens. An earthquake was just a gentle breeze to them. They didn't even bother opening their eyes. I laughed and sighed. Absolute trust, huh? Aren't you afraid I'll sell you all out? Feeling a bit dizzy from the shaking, I sat down on the floor, leaning against Muir, quietly waiting for the upgrade process to finish. Every time the shelter upgrades, it feels like it's being reborn. Compared to the sea god's resurrection in the trailer, the feeling of a god awakening right now felt much more real. In the dead of night, I just waited silently. About 10 minutes later, when the turtle shell core appeared, a flash of light swept past, and all the tremors stopped. The upgrade interface lit up brightly. Shelter level 3, complete. Compared to the drastic changes of the level 2 upgrade, this one was quite subtle if you didn't open the restructuring feature. It only added a new function called shelter, while the rest of the stats didn't fluctuate much. The conditions for upgrading to level 4 appeared right after. Main shelter survives 5 disasters, with durability above 50% each time. Met. Have 1 1-star resource and 1 half-star resource within range. Met. Underground safety score greater than or equal to 15. Current. 328. Met. Surface safety score greater than or equal to 30. Current. 227. Met. Possess at least 1 item with growth potential. Met. Pay 2,000 disaster points. Current. 11,012. Met. New features of level 4. Remote repair. Alerts when the shelter is attacked. Can provide materials to repair remotely. Reinforcement. Link the main door to any item. As long as the item is not destroyed and shelter durability is greater than 50%, the main door is immune to damage. +1 restructuring. Gain 1 additional comprehensive shelter modification. I laughed out loud in excitement. Nice. I've met all the conditions for the level 4 upgrade. This is the advantage of being ahead of everyone else. As long as I have points, I can just keep upgrading. All the condition icons lit up green, a worthy reward for all the effort, sweat, and even my life that I've put in. Without a prior foundation, anyone would be dizzy just looking at these conditions. Let alone anything else. Just the 2,000 disaster points alone is a terrifying number in the current situation. Not to mention needing a 1-star and a half-star resource. That alone is enough to stump 99.9% of the survivors in this world. Except for a few darlings of destiny, or those who were born right next to a resource mine left by predecessors. Gathering all this by one's own strength would take at least half a year to a year of struggling in the wasteland. I opened the safety score calculation rules and understood it at a glance. If these points are still used later, I can totally exploit the loopholes. According to the calculation table, every gun in the underground armory, plus 1 point, max 50. Every explosive pack, plus 5 points, max 100. But the most important thing is the giant TV used for outside surveillance. That alone accounts for a full 100 points. Meanwhile, the first floor garage door, which looks very safe, only gives a little over 50 points. So, if I'm ever short on points later, as long as I know the formula, I can easily boost the safety stats for both the surface and underground. After evaluating that, I moved on to check the new features of level 4. I already knew about these since fusing Magu's core in the Time Ruin, so there were no surprises. With a thought, the level 4 upgrade process initiated. This time, as if experienced, the process went quite smoothly. After about 20 minutes of light shaking, it returned to silence. A new interface popped up, the preview for the level 5 upgrade conditions. Just one glance, and I had to take a sharp breath of cold air. Preview of shelter level 5 upgrade conditions. Condition 1. Survive 7 disasters, each with durability greater than 50%. Global top 10 automatically adds 1 count. 5 out of 7. Condition 2. After reaching level 4, kill more than 500 enemies of other races. 0 for 500. Condition 3. Overall physique greater than or equal to 50 points. Current, 42. Condition 4. The shelter must possess at least one level 1 or higher benign buff. Condition 5. Participate in at least 5 ruins of grade 1 or higher. 3/5. Condition 6. Consume 3,000 disaster points. 9/012/3000. New features. Airdrop care package. Randomly receive a blueprint/module/material. Restructuring. Completely overhaul the shelter. Optional. I let out a dry chuckle. No wonder Magu, despite surviving over a dozen disasters, was still stuck at level 5. From here on out, it's truly hell mode. This is the first time I've seen the level 5 conditions. No matter how steady my heart is, the pressure is palpable. But thanks to this, I solved a few mysteries about Magu's deep-sea shelter from the past. That mini oil rig was definitely what he pulled from the level 5 care package. It explains why he had such good stuff despite living in hiding. The most surprising thing to me was the physique requirement of 50 points. I'm still 8 points short. You have to understand, right now I can easily bench press 100 kilograms and deadlift over 220 kilograms. And I'm still lacking. So how are those emaciated, starving people out there supposed to meet the standard? Considering the average physical condition in the wasteland, if it weren't for the welfare disaster, everyone would be skin and bones. Where would they get the strength to upgrade their shelters? No wonder it took Magu over a year to reach level 5. I understand very well. Once the system includes physique as a condition, it will demand 70 points, maybe even 100 points later on. The path forward will only get harder. Thinking about what lies ahead, I quietly noted down every condition. Then I decisively closed the control panel. It won't be long now. I just need to wait for the Black Fog Ruin to open one more time, and I'll complete the ruin participation requirement. Things are different now. Disasters are coming back to back. I just need to find a ruin at sea, enter, and escape immediately. That'll be enough. Regaining my composure, I kept the shelter's current state as is, making no changes before moving to the new continent. Tomorrow's task is to choose a new location and build a warehouse to stockpile food, the final preparation before setting sail. After waiting so long, it's finally time to use the destroyer blueprint. With a thought, the pale purple blueprint appeared in my hand. I gripped it tightly with both hands. At the same time, 1,000 disaster points vanished as a violent stream of memories crashed into my brain. Small destroyer is actually just a general term for this blueprint, not a specific ship model. Rare blueprints always come with memory transmission, acting as a summary to help the user understand the contents. Within that stream of memories, frames of images and voiceovers appeared clearly. The blueprint divides the destroyer into 3 tiers. Tier 1 activates 9 components. Tier 2, maximum of 6 components. Tier 3, no matter how perfect, only activates 3 components. The rule emphasized from the start, tier determines everything. After viewing the overview, I immediately switched to the detailed description. Tier 1 destroyer. Length, 182.5 m. Beam, 24.1 m. Draft, 8.1 m. Maximum displacement, 15,000 tons. Crew, 140. Cruising speed, 30 knots. Maximum speed, 42 knots. Draft is the distance from the bottom of the hull to the waterline. 9 equipment components. Multifunction phased array radar. LVS wideband multilayer sonar. MKM 1+30 vertical launch system. C 3+2 anti-submarine warfare helicopter. 556+2 permanent magnet electric motor. Hull uses 800 cubic meters of composite materials. Can be replaced with higher grade materials if recognized by the blueprint. D 1 electromagnetic railgun. Full body stealth coating. Integrated amphibious fire control system. Hidden skills based on component count. 3 components. Unsinkable. As long as durability is above 30%, no matter how damaged, the ship will not sink. Not bound by any physical rules. 6 components. Double speed. Doubles cruising speed. If running at max speed, it trades durability for speed. Running too long causes rapid wear and tear. 9 components. Auto repair. Restores 10% durability every 24 hours if below 99%. I licked my lips, looking up at the spec sheet. Holy shit. Calling this a small destroyer is a bit of an understatement. My eyes shone brightly. Never mind the specs, just the equipment lineup alone far exceeds many cruisers on Earth. If I can actually build this ship, let alone deep-sea aliens, even if the sea god shows up, I'd dare to go around with him. That's just a thought, though. In reality, my tech tree is way too slow. Installing all 9 components right now is out of the question. Specifically, just the hull alone would empty my wallet. I can't afford it. The goods are top tier, but my wallet is empty. After looking at the Tier 1 ship again, I quickly checked the Tier 2 ship, then scrolled straight down to the easiest one to build, the Tier 3 ship. Tier 3 destroyer. Length, 76.43 m. Beam, 10.2 m. Draft, 3.3 m. Maximum displacement, 5,635 tons. Crew, 174. Cruising speed, 24 knots. Maximum speed, 31 knots. 3 equipment components. 400 cubic meters of special steel can be replaced with better steel if recognized by the blueprint. Basic combat system. 12 fixed heavy firepower weapon mounts. Hidden skill, 3 components. Ramming strike. Consumes 10% durability. Choose a direction to charge for 5 minutes at 45 knots. Colliding with the first target will detonate accumulated energy, and the ship will return to normal speed. Usable once every 24 hours. Can store up to 3 charges. I stared wide-eyed at the ship's length. 76 meters. Almost 80 meters. That's double the 40-meter ship I originally planned to build. After weighing the options, I quickly made up my mind. The Tier 3 ship is the only logical choice right now. For 100 cubic meters of special steel, I have 440 cubic meters of military-grade steel in stock. I can substitute it. The combat system will take some programming, but it's doable. 12 type, 80 machine guns, just need to mount them in the right spots. The ramming strike skill is extremely practical. Running away at 45 knots, and you can even choose the direction. It's truly an ultimate escape skill. Low EQ, savage ramming. High EQ, super escape tool. Seeing that it was almost 3 a.m., I quickly closed the base doors and led the 4 little ones downstairs. A destroyer. No need to think about it anymore. The blueprint gives 3 options, and even though option 3 is slightly over budget, It's still the only reasonable choice right now. Arbitrarily changing the dimensions or structure. That's suicide. If the proportions are wrong, the special skills won't activate, and it might even cause structural failure. If things go south, I'll just pop the ramming strike and run. I can live with it being a bit flimsy. Having a ship is good enough. But for a ship nearly 80 meters long, the amount of steel required, no matter how thick-skinned I am, I wouldn't dare joke about it. A rough estimate, I need at least 4,000 steel plates, maybe even 4,500 for extra reinforcement. With this amount of material, I have to empty every scrap of iron in my inventory. Even the copper ingots will be hard to keep. Faced with this material crisis, my only option is to sacrifice thickness, slightly lowering the standards in some places to prioritize quantity first. The excitement from upgrading the shelter dropped quite a bit. Now that the material market has updated, I only need to pay half the tax to trade. Hopefully, I can hoard some goods and ease the material pressure. With the ocean disaster looming, basic materials will definitely become hot commodities, just like seeds during the first disaster. Prices will skyrocket. I opened the World Channel to see what people were talking about. It rained heavily all day yesterday, trapping everyone in their bunkers, so tonight everyone was surprisingly energetic. Even though it was past 3 a.m., there were more active people than during the day, thanks to the new update. Messages exploded like fireworks. Looking for a girlfriend who hasn't hoarded enough food. 160 centimeters, good figure, and pretty face is all I ask. I'll take care of you. You make me suffer. I make you swoon. If others are heartless, I am affectionate. Let me shoulder your insecurities. This update is a critical hit. We have to start all over again. I'm not good at farming, but surviving at sea is my profession. From bamboo rafts to aircraft carriers, I've built them all. Team up if you want to play. Is anyone planning to defend to the death? I live on a high mountain at 2,280 meters. The sea level is 1,020 meters. I'm not going anywhere. I'll live out the rest of my life here. Recruiting for the 7th Heaven team to pave the way to the new continent. DM me if you're heading out to sea. Confirm coordinates and the direction to land on the new continent, and we're brothers. Recruiting partners for a death-defying defense, signing food sale contracts. I'll deliver first, bear the 50% tax, and distribute daily. You get 20% of the profit, but you must provide your terrain elevation. If the water level difference is less than 1,500 meters, don't bother. Selling basic materials, copper, lead, iron, wood. Only trading for food. Trolls get lost. Honest traders, let's talk. Hiring someone to build high-end wooden boats that can equip system cores. Need 3 boats. The more people, the better. Paying top dollar. If you have the skills, DM me immediately. F*CK this game. The sea level at my place is 12,000 meters. How am I supposed to play? Why not just throw in the Bermuda Triangle to complete the combo? Where's Almighty Sue? His base is so overpowered. Is he going to run away now too? That doesn't sound like him at all. Wake up, guys. Didn't you watch the trailer? Almighty Sue wiped out tens of millions of aliens like it was nothing. He might even dare to obliterate the sea god. Then we'll get more welfare. Awesome. Fans of Almighty Sue, hurry up and join the fan club. Who knows, we might be able to cooperate with him out at sea. I've already gathered a few hundred people here. The messages rolled up like a tide. After more than a month of survival, many of the weak and unskilled had already perished. The atmosphere in the chat channel is much cleaner now. Hardly anyone is complaining. Most people are having practical discussions, sharing strategies, and no one is talking about giving up anymore. I sat and observed for half an hour, gradually noticing a clear divide among humanity. There are 3 main factions. First, the seafaring faction. Like me, they've chosen to abandon their shelters and head for the new continent. They believe that the only way to survive and thrive is to follow the update and keep moving forward. They're building ships, hoarding materials, recruiting partners, and even chaining rafts together like the linked ships from the 3 Kingdoms era. Second, the diehard defenders. They have the high ground, living on mountains thousands of meters high where the sea level won't reach. They've hoarded enough resources and profited from the last 3 disasters, so they've grown strong quickly. They don't see any clear benefits to the new continent yet, so they refuse to leave their safe zones. Third, the hesitant faction, the fence-sitters. One moment they're determined to set sail, The next, they're terrified of dying. They want the rewards, but they don't want to take the risks. They just sway whichever way the wind blows. I understand how each faction thinks, and I can see the approaching trend. But before I could think too deeply about it, a flash of inspiration hit me. People who want to leave but can't carry all their materials will definitely dump their stock. Meanwhile, the defenders will take advantage of this material dump to trade for food. With so many people selling at once, the market will be flooded. In that case, tomorrow at noon, or the afternoon at the latest, will be the golden window to hoard materials. I opened the trading market with a thought. The market is now open. As long as they're willing to lose half their goods, they don't even need disaster points. Just as I predicted, the prices of basic materials have already started to plummet. Some even labeled their listings, "Tearful Clearance Sale." Honestly, basic materials are gifts from nature. They just require time and labor. And for the refugees of the wasteland, time and labor are the cheapest things they have. If they can't take it with them, selling it for anything at all is a win. I'll wait. I'll check the prices again when I wake up tomorrow. It's already almost 3:30 a.m. I lay on my small bed, feeling a bit lonely. After scrolling through a few more pages of prices, my eyelids started getting heavy. I forced my eyes open, pulled up my friend's list, found Chun Shin's avatar, and sent him a long list of instructions. Once that was done, I finally felt at ease and closed the control panel. Everything is set. Tomorrow, it's time to get to work. I took a sip of energy water by my bed. The sound of Muair's soft snoring drifted down from the second floor. My breathing gradually slowed. In this wasteland, whether you're a high official, a billionaire, or someone with a nervous breakdown, just one day of hard labor is enough to make you sleep like a baby. 3 to 5 minutes later, the entire shelter fell into dead silence, like an underground beast slowly swallowing the night. As my perspective shifted upward, I obviously had no idea that the wasteland was anything but peaceful tonight. Aside from the 3 human factions, the alien races were suffering just as much. Lacking humanity's farming techniques, the lucky ones might find a few wild berries. The unlucky ones, they ate grass to survive. As for the carnivorous species, like the physically superior long demon race, most of them had to endure the night with empty stomachs. Just as I predicted, humanity wasn't the only one aware of the ocean update. The alien races got the news too. Even before being teleported to this land, they had mentally prepared themselves. Some of the stronger races had already started hoarding food to cross the ocean and reach the new continent. If they didn't have food, alien races robbed other alien races. Alien races robbed humans. Humans fought back and slaughtered the alien races. Alien races fought among themselves. And humans sat back to reap the spoils. Starting today, aside from the zones that had already been cleared, the rest of the world would definitely erupt in flames long before the ocean map even updated. The long night seemed endless, but dawn slowly broke. The dark clouds gradually dispersed, and the pale moonlight shone down on the wilderness. Minute by minute passed. By a little past 6 a.m., the sun once again peaked over the horizon. On the vast plains, the people of Zhuhua Shelter also began a new day. After 3 disasters, with my support, every refugee had accumulated enough of the 100 disaster points needed to unlock their personal storage space. Early in the morning, everyone eagerly packed up their meager belongings. A few sets of clothes, a bit of food, and some odds and ends. The guards sat imposingly at the village gates, sharpening their spearheads. Sparks flew from the whetstones, crackling as they hit the ground. Their hands moved mechanically, but their hearts were burning with excitement. Because of this, whether they were guards or commoners, everyone's eyes kept darting toward the same place, the kitchen. Food is the paramount necessity of the people. Before discussing whether to stay or go, they had to eat first. And most importantly, they had to eat safely. Word had it that there would be a grand feast this morning. All the chefs were rushing to prepare enough food for over 100 people for the entire day. Fermented white flour was steamed into plump, fragrant white buns. Parboiled white radishes and carrots were finely diced and mixed with chili, salt, and vinegar to make 2 mouth-watering pickled dishes. Pork ribs were stewed until tender, the broth bubbling and steaming. The rich aroma wafted through the village, making everyone's mouth water wherever it reached. Even Chen Shun, the man in charge, couldn't focus. At exactly 8 a.m., the call to eat rang out. Except for a few guards on duty, everyone brought their chairs to the large plaza in the center of the village, sitting in neat rows. Today was the first General Assembly, and possibly the last, so everyone was full of anticipation, even more eager for this than the delicious smell of the food. Quiet down, everyone. Chun Shin stood on the high platform. He wasn't very tall, about 1.75 meters, with tan skin. His face looked much more hardened than the first day I met him. Thanks to the time he spent carrying out my tasks, he now carried the aura of a true leader. The moment he spoke, the crowd below instantly fell silent. Only heavy, expectant breathing remained. I'm sure everyone has guessed why I called you all here today. Today is the first General Assembly, and it will also be the last General Assembly of Zhuhua Village. Clap, clap, clap. Thunderous applause erupted. Even the chefs poked their heads out to look, gripping their dish towels tightly in excitement. The village was still peaceful, yet he called it the last assembly. Didn't that mean something huge was about to happen? Silence. Chin, the security captain, barked. The entire plaza went dead silent, as if someone had hit the mute button. Chun Shun continued. Last night, the system announced the second major update. The ocean is coming. Our current home will no longer be safe. We will now hold the first round of voting. Those who agree to head to the new continent, raise your hands. Those who disagree, raise your hands. Unlike meetings in the civilized era that beat around the bush, in the wasteland, things were settled in 3 sentences. But after he finished speaking, the entire plaza was dead silent. He wasn't in a rush, either. He just stood there and waited. 10 seconds passed. A man in the middle row suddenly stood up. Brother Chun, how could we possibly dare to decide whether or not to go to the new continent? You have to be the one to decide. And more importantly, Almighty Su has to decide. If Almighty Su says we go, I'll follow him even if it kills me. If Almighty Su says we don't go, then even if you force me, I'm not going anywhere. If Almighty Su goes, we go. If Almighty Su doesn't go, then we stay right here. How does that saying go again? Oh, right. Follow Almighty Su, and you'll never lose your way. Without Almighty Su, Zhuhua Village would still be starving right now. I'm following Almighty Su for the rest of my life. If he says head east, I absolutely wouldn't dare head west. If he says we leave today, I'll pack my bags and leave today. If he says we stay, even if the sea floods up to my neck, I'll float right behind him. Whoa. With one person starting it, the whole plaza erupted. Shouting, clapping, cheering. In the eyes of the refugees, the management team was capable, but compared to me, they were nothing. At best, they were just errand boys running things for me. Sticking close to me was the only way to survive, to live well, and to rebuild a new life. Surprisingly, Chun Shun didn't try to stop them. He waited for everyone to cheer for a full minute before raising his hand. The entire village instantly fell silent on reflex. Since everyone is united in following Almighty Su, I will announce the second matter. Last night, Brother Su Mo, Boss Su Mo personally messaged me with a few instructions. The whole plaza held its breath. You don't need to worry about the relocation. Almighty Su is going to build a massive warship. It will be big enough to carry all of us. According to estimates, the ship will be 80 meters long. No one screamed. No one clapped. There was only absolute silence. The news was too massive, completely beyond their wildest imaginations. It was like getting into a fight with the neighborhood kids. You thought your dad coming out with a stick was already peak badass, but who would have thought he'd drive a literal tank out and park it right in front of them? That was exactly how the villagers felt right now. Chun Shun continued, his voice turning stern. The second matter. The relocation won't happen the moment the ocean arrives. Almighty Su will set sail first to deliver justice and rescue other regions. After that, before the tsunami hits, he will return to pick all of us up and take us to the new continent. Therefore, for now, we will temporarily relocate to the mountainous area near Almighty Su's base, Ironstone Mountain. We'll take shelter there while mining iron or to help build the ship. After breakfast, the first wave of relocation will begin. Each person is only allowed to bring a maximum of 1/5 of their personal belongings. The rest of the space must be saved for storing food. Does anyone have any objections?